Bowlers, we now have 10 minutes in practice on your starting lanes.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Matt Canizaro live at the National Bowling Stadium. We're here at the 2013 USBC Open Championships, and it's practice time. We're here tonight to see 1993 regular singles champion Dan Bock, Chad Nelson, and their talented group from Minnesota. 10 minutes of practice is underway, and then we'll be right back with you with tonight's team event.
It's a lot of practice. When you're bowling, it's not so good.
All right, folks, there's your 2-minute warning here at the National Bowling Stadium. We'll be underway in just a couple of minutes here. This is Matt Kenazar. We're going to be joined live by 3-time champion Matt McNeil and USBC Hall of Famer Jeff Riggles. So we'll have this team event for you in just a minute. It's going to be an exciting one. A fantastic squad here tonight. 16 celebrities announced prior to competition tonight. In order to be a celebrity, you have to have a title, an honor score at the Open Championships 300, 800, be a Hall of Famer, or have an international medal. So 16 folks on this team squad. It's going to be an exciting one. We'll be right back.
Please hold practice. Practice is over. Ladies and gentlemen, flash photography is not permitted during tournament competition. National Bowling Stadium, we're ready to begin competition. Bowlers at the sound of bell may begin to lock into bowling.
And there it is, folks, the sound of the bell. We are underway here behind lanes 35 and 36 at the National Bowling Stadium. 7 o'clock team event, 2012, or 13. Wow, I wish it was 2012 again. 2013 USBC Open Championships. We've got a great show for you tonight. 10 talented bowlers from Minnesota. And we have one of their own, Matt McNeil, on with us tonight, as well as USBC Hall of Famer Jeff Riggles. So I'm going to sit here and facilitate. I'm going to let you guys have a good time here. And Matt, your expertise, of course, on the history of these gentlemen, very much welcome. So welcome, guys.
Great to be here.
Thanks, Matty. Appreciate it.
I know a lot of these guys pretty well. Nowhere near as well as Matt does, obviously, but I've run into these guys on many an occasion in a lot of PBA regionals when we go up to Minnesota and stuff.
Yeah, we have a monthly scratch tournament called the CBA, and usually every year the top 3 in standings for the year are usually Dave Lehner, Chad Nelson, and Dan Bock. So usually, if I bowl a CBA, I'm usually bowling for 4th.
Well, it's funny, in 2006 in Alexandria, Minnesota, about an hour northwest there of the Twin Cities, we had a regional, and I ended up losing in the semifinals, and the bowling for the title were non-members, Dan Bock and Chad Nelson. And those guys, unknown by many people, but no lack of talent here.
Well, and I remember we always, when the high roller used to be at Sam's Town,
Oh, yeah.
we just called it Chad and Dan's Town.
Yep. I like that.
Because they happen to win a lot of money, and I mean a lot of money, all the times the high roller was at Sam's Town.
And last year, if Matt will remember this, but the story I heard is when you had the live stream last year with Shannon O'Keefe and Ron Nelson and their crew, Bill Webb, these guys were on the pair right next to him and shot a big number as well. if I recall. I remember writing about it the next day, how much action there was on two pairs next to each other. So,
well, as you can see on this squad, we said earlier, 16 celebrities. This is a stacked squad for sure. And these guys they're always right there, a little bit under the radar. They quietly get it done. They got it done, last year while our attention was elsewhere. They always bowl well. They're always contenders. Obviously, Bock with the singles title in 1993, and as Matt said, always in the mix at pretty much every event they go to. So now here's their time in the spotlight. And so far today, everybody I've run into, they know we're live streaming, and I tell them who, and they say, who are those guys? Well, here's the chance to show the world a little bit, that the guys quietly getting it done. There's their chance to shine on the big stage.
and this is quite a squad here. A little bit late start because I think they had 25 minutes of announcements there. One of my all-time favorite people bowling on this squad, Les Sykes.
Yes.
One of the greatest bowlers in this tournament in history. I think it's six eagles, and a record that you've threatened up, Matt. He had three. The only person ever to have eagles 3 years in a row was Les Sykes.
That's right.
Chicago area bowler. He was still bowling when I started out in PBA regionals. He was still bowling regular regionals and some senior tour, and obviously Les is over 70 now, but he's still out here. I had a chance to chat with him at the Hall of Fame last night. He's one of those quiet, dry humor guys. Great guy. And there's just tons of talent on this squad tonight.
I wonder what the bracket number got to, because I'm guessing a lot of people fired a lot of money behind the lanes this evening in the bracket room.
I would sure think so. Some of the other people we got in the squad, Matt's handed me a nice. Pam Buckner from Reno, another Hall of Famer.
Hall of Famer.
Looking through, and I've got to give a shout out here. We got some Sheboygan, Wisconsin guys who bowl with my doubles partner Steve Richter, who I know is watching and listening tonight, along with the Third Arrow Burglar at Richter's house, having a couple craft beers that he created and watching a little of the action. Ben Cleveland, Don Succo, Jeremy Gamak, Chris Van Akron, Kevin Gamak, Ron Scheucher, Wisconsin Cheesehead guys. They're down on 15 and 16. I know they probably fired a little, and they certainly got the potential to put up a good number tonight. So I'm looking through this. This could be a fun night. After a big afternoon, too, with Doug Kent's team here, and I watched a lot of their action, and the second place team from last year with Greg Thomas and Tony Oliva. I think they had a 33-something and a 32-something for those two teams.
Well, it's been a relatively exciting week. Obviously, earlier on that squad, too, Carolyn Doran-Ballard, Tammy Turner, and a very talented ladies team. Will be showing them tomorrow from the Women's Championships at 6 p.m. our time, 9 p.m. on the East Coast. And it just seems like every day, and we talk about this all the time, but this week especially, everywhere you turn, there's a superstar. Very intimidating, no doubt. We're glad to bring it to you live from the National Bowling Stadium. And let's talk about these guys we're looking at right now. Mr. McNeil, we'll go down the lineup here real quick. We have Dave Langer, Dan Langer, Dave Ullman, Dan Bock, as we mentioned, the 1993 regular singles champ, Chad Nelson, and that is the Locker Guy 1. That's their team name, and their sponsor, Tom Corbett, is in your group, Mr. McNeil.
Yes, he is our team captain. So Tom's actually has the monopoly really on Minnesota bowling, because not only is he the captain of the Lakers, but he also sponsors the Locker Guy teams and provides all the Minnesota schools and health clubs with lockers. So he is the original Locker Guy, and hence he pretty much has kind of a stable, if you will, of the top 15, 20 bowlers in the state of Minnesota. So Tom does very well for himself. We like to call him a flush brother.
And I see you got another Minnesota group here in North Dakota, some guys I know. Jack Nelson, Brian Floan, Arnie Gertis, the Sandviks, Tim Mayer. Wow. This is Minnesota night.
Well, and on lane 36, the Locker Guy 2. Tom Korth, Bob Hager, Rob Clements, Sam Sylvester, and Matt Meyer. And the youngster of the group, or at least in years, 10 years, Clements. So everybody with at least a decade of experience on this pair. So again, these guys always in the mix, quietly getting it done. And now it's time for some fireworks on bowl.com. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Matt Cannizzaro, Matt McNeil, and Jeff Briggles live from the 2013 USBC Open Championships.
And Matt, a side note, some of these guys made one of the telecasts in the old World Team Challenges.
Yep.
And when we see Tom Korth come up, Earl Anthony made a nice comment about Tom. He called him loosey-goosey. He had a loosey-goosey style. And Tom had a little patch of hair on his peanut head, and it was very entertaining to watch. The minute I started bowling with Tom regularly, I made sure to bring that one up, and he had a big smile.
That's good. I like that.
And, of course, Matt Meyer, one of my former teammates, when I bowled with the Linz Cedarville group, or Cedarville Linz, whichever you want to call it. So I bowled with Matt Meyer for 2 years here in 2010 and 2011. He can certainly get it done.
Well, the number these guys are chasing is a big one. It's actually the highest number in tournament history. 110 years of bowling at the Open Championships, and leading the team event this year, 35-38. And that record stood for 20 years until John Gaines, John Janowitz, Vernon Peterson, Mitch Jabinski, and Scott Newell took it down in dramatic fashion. Janowitz delivered 3 huge dead flush strikes in the 10th frame to take that record by a single pin. And now they are the front runners here in 2013, 35-38. And in order to make the top 10 here, it's going to take 3,400, also a record.
Wow.
The most 3,400s in tournament history. Previously, it was 7 here in 2011. Riggs, you guys were on top of that list, 34-73 to take home the title. And that was hard fought, of course. And again, you mentioned some of your buddies there from Wisconsin finished second that year. And I believe you said on our last broadcast, if you guys couldn't win, you certainly wanted to be them. But can you put that in perspective a little bit? Just the scoring pace then, and what you're seeing now so far, as you actually haven't bowled. Matt McNeil has bowled, so 2 different perspectives here. But Jeff, let's hear from you first.
Okay. Well, we're 2 weeks from right now. Friday, May 17th, 7 p.m. So I'm already a little excited about that. And obviously these scores this year, basically you just come out and you have to be process oriented, as I like to say, instead of results oriented, and just make the best shots you can to make the best decisions you can, communicate and work together. And then it comes down to, hopefully you get the breaks that you need, because a good team could bowl on a house shot a bunch and maybe not get 3,500 quite often. And so much goes into that it's hard to get out there and think right away. If you start pressing thinking you got to, shoot 1,200 the first game or something, you're going to dig yourself a hole, I feel. And I think you just got to be confident and relaxed and just make the best shots you can, and just realize that you might only get to 250 over or something, but that doesn't mean you can't shoot 1,300 the last game, which we've almost done. So it's just a never panic, just relax as much as you can, which is very hard, easier said than done. And if you can't get to that 35-38, you shoot 34-50, it's still a great check and a chance for team all events. And we wouldn't, I'm not coming out here thinking it's a failure if we shoot 33-50 or 34-50. It is what it is. You just do the best you can. But you can't let the numbers intimidate it. Obviously, if one team or more teams have shot 3,400 or better or 3,500 or better, then why can't you, is the way you got to look at it.
Well, and that's exactly what John Gaines said in his interview. Of course, it's difficult a little bit to celebrate such a record, such an honor, as early as it was. It was the first weekend in April. So still a long way to go, and that's exactly what he said in his interview, is that if we just did it, certainly there's plenty of teams capable of doing so as well. So while it's cool to have the record, we're not going to celebrate, until July, until when it's all said and done, because, if somebody beats us, well, we don't have the record anymore, so we celebrated for nothing. And, that's an interesting way to look at it. I mean, he understands what this event's about, certainly. More than 20 years on the tournament lanes here, 3 titles. He understands the prestige and the history, and you could see it in talking to them after, just the emotion,
Yeah.
The brackets and the prize checks and all of that is secondary, because as we know, the money, it gets spent, the scores, everything, it's those memories, it's the ego, it's the honor of being a champion here, and certainly, those guys really embody what it means to be a champion at this event. But still, a long way to go, a lot of close calls. I know I talk to them often. John Janowitz was here at the Hall of Fame banquet last night, and there were some great teams bowling, so we talked about that a little bit, and you just never know. And we've seen some familiar names up on the leaderboards, and we've seen some folks maybe we don't know, and you just never know when the next Matt McNeil or Matt Wagon is going to come out of nowhere and put up a huge number. It just that's just how this event works. You just have no idea.
Well, I think, Matt, the new format is really going to change the way we champions are crowned here. I think it's going to be a lot more. The guys who you see win are going to be guys who I think you may have heard from before, or maybe people who are a little more established on more established teams, simply because the singles double pattern starting fresh is quite challenging. And unless you get 6 guys to play that pattern correctly, it can continue to be challenging for, X amount of games. You're not going to have a guy come out, walk onto a team pattern that's been set up by a great team and fire, 780, 790 out of the blocks and then go over to another pair that may have been set up as well and then follow that up with another 780 or 790. I can see obviously we can see the 780s, the 790s, maybe 800 in singles, but I think the double score, why it is still 14-0, is because that pattern fresh is extremely challenging, and it takes 6 guys who really have to know what they're doing, work together to make it, to break it down correctly.
Well, now let's talk about these 10 guys and strategy. I did not get a chance to talk to them earlier. I told Dan I was going to get there, but I'm sure you did. But any thoughts on what the game plan is tonight? And as we can see, the Locker Guy 1 finished 9th in team last year. We know they're capable of big numbers. Off to a little bit of a rough start here in game number 1. But what do you know about their game plan coming in?
Well, Locker Guy 1 is all playing inside. Locker Guy 2, the straighter guys, are all playing out.
I noticed that in practice.
Yeah, so the hand guys are using less ball playing in. The straighter guys, Locker Guy 2, they're all going to play out with a little more surface and a little more ball. And I that seems to be the game plan.
What do you think of that?
Well, it's different.
It is.
I have not seen that before yet in the tournament, really. These guys are really talented and really sharp, so you got to go with the fact that they have there's got to be a method to the madness, and maybe that something we're not seeing. I know if I was coaching 10 guys, I probably wouldn't recommend that to a normal team coming in, but this is not a normal team. This is a team filled of experience and a lot of veteran players who know what they're doing. So I think, I don't know Riggs, what's your take on it?
Well, I look up at the scoreboard, and you can sure see which way is working better on the fresh right now. It's quite obvious, and I know what we're going to do. We're going to be doing what Locker Guy 2 is doing, and we're probably closer to them. We don't have anybody on our team that even comes close to Dan or Chad in rev rate, I don't think. Maybe Richter a little bit, but he's getting up there in age too and straightening out. And that's just, for us, it's easy because we all have 10 guys that pretty much throw it the same and older and straighter, and we'll be out there between 5 and 10 somewhere.
Yeah,
there's no doubt about that. We couldn't play the lanes the way Dan and Chad and their group is, and Dave and Dan. We just I wouldn't work for us as physically.
Well, and I definitely agree with that, and I think Dave Lehner has to be one of the most probably underestimated bowlers, I think, in the Midwest. Easily a guy who could definitely be a force on tour if he decided to go there. He has one of the best releases I have ever seen. He is so clean, so smooth, but he gets such a powerful roll, and it's a very high roll, but it's very smooth through the fronts, reads the mids, and then just goes through the pins, and he can open up a lane like it's like Weber-esque almost, and so it's going to be very interesting to see what happens as we start getting into the later part of this team event, I think.
Yeah, I've never seen a strategy quite like this where you kind of have half and half sort of. On this pattern, perhaps this will work, but it's just very interesting, I find it. Obviously, these guys know each other well, and they work together, so they came up with this. It'd be interesting to hear what they say. Great. Oh, wow. That's a kick in the beep.
Yeah, that's a tough break. Rob, I know Rob bowls in a weekly sport league at John East's place in the cities, and he's definitely one of the practicers. He's always trying to stay sharp, always trying to bowl on challenging conditions. So really always trying to test himself that way.
What does John's daughter still bowl? She was a Team USA.
Yeah.
She subbed last year, right? Or 2 years ago? 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
With the Lakers.
Yeah, and she's been multiple Team USA member, and she still throws it really, really good. She'll fill in if we have an absence on the team, and she brings a great addition to the team, and always a lot of smiles and a bright attitude. The thing that I always remember about Lisa is in the National Amateur in 1998 when it was at Eden Prairie, Brunswick, Eden Prairie Lanes.
Yeah, my all-time faux pas. You tell this story and I'll follow up with it.
All right. Well, anyways, one of my mentors, Carl Fitek, made the team that year. But on the women's show, Lisa got beat by a backdoor domino.
4-2-1.
Yeah.
Missed the head pin.
Yeah. Missed the head pin completely right and lost on a backdoor strike. Who'd she lose to? I'm trying to remember.
It was a pretty good bowler, too, and I can't remember who now, but...
Can we check the chat room, Maddie? Does anybody know out there? I think it was 1997.
I'm thinking it was 97.
I think it was...
Here's why I know, because that year Jace Peterson had a mild heart attack and was with Brian Brazeau and those guys, Dennis Rakauskas, and I went out to fill in for him in the World Team Challenge Finals in Reno, and on the way back, Lisa was on my flight, and I kind of knew her and had a chance to chat. And I went up to her and said, didn't you were just made Team USA, right? And, this is back when things weren't instantly known, and I had no idea how it happened. I said I'd heard you finish second. I said, what happened? I forget what I said, but it was like, was it a tough match? And she said, you could say so, or something like that. It was like, and then later I found out what had happened to her, and I've never felt so awful, and I've never seen her since, I don't think, to where I would like to just apologize. If she's listening or hears about this, I am so sorry for having said that to you. I would have never said it that way if I would have known what had happened to her. Oh, I think the other gal threw a flush strike for the first ball, and then the second, she needed a double, or maybe it was the 9th and 10th, but the second one was a missed head pin 4-2-1 domino to cost her the Team USA title. Oh.
Yeah, I believe she needed all three in the 10th to win by like 1 or 2. Or it might have been 1.
Yeah,
because it was a very low-scoring match. It was like 160 to 170 or something like that. But just a complete miss to the right and a backdoor strike. And I grew up in that bowling center.
I bowled regionals there.
And that's where I drill bowling balls. That's where I share my work for Carl Fitek in his shop. And I have never in my life, the 14 years I've practiced there, gotten a backdoor strike. It was just one of those things. But, that's the interesting thing about our sport, I think.
If I'm not mistaken, it was Jeanette Pazinski.
There we go.
And we actually had it featured here on a retro roll.
Ends in unforgettable fashion. He's got the video up here, a little video feature. Retro roll.
Something that Matt Lawson put together a couple of years ago heading into the team trials, I believe.
I tell you, I owe Lisa an apology. I was unwitting. I didn't know, so it wasn't like I said it just to be a bad guy or something, but I felt so horrible afterwards. There she is. I can't imagine sitting on the bench and having that happen. And there's the shot. That must be the first one. And, people will remember the missed head pin. The shots before that Jeanette threw were fantastic.
Yes.
We saw her throw some great shots in Corpus Christi in 2006 as well, bowled the first 300 game of that event. So she certainly proven herself, but years later even, on this stage as well.
Most helpless feeling in bowling is sitting on the bench while your opponent is up in the 10th, determining your fate.
Yeah.
There it is, wide right.
Oh, that's still unbelievable. And then Lisa's got that
Lisa's
look.
just in the chair. I don't know what I'd do.
What can you say?
Yeah. Oh, I remember the '95 Tournament of Champions when Albee crumbled the bucket against Big Bob Spalding.
Yep, I remember that one.
And Bob hit the deck, and was just laying there in the settee. And I mean, you got to give Lisa a lot of props for just having the composure and being a true champ.
And when you're the one that wins that way, I know I've said I'm sorry a couple of times in my career winning on horrendous shots. If you bowl, the old thing I've said many times that I learned on tour from a veteran touring pro, I can't remember his name now, is if you bowl out here long enough, everything that can happen will happen to you. Mm-hmm. And because it was a tournament where I was up high and ended up down low and was kind of despondent and said, hey, if you're out here long enough, whatever can happen will happen eventually to you. And never a truer statement. Lots of strikes up here for Locker Guy 2, but 4 holes already. When you're looking at 3,500, you cannot have a lot of opens.
No, and 3 holes for Locker Guy 1 too. So I mean that's not a. I mean a lot of 190 paces through 5. So if they're gonna start making a run at that score, they gotta start putting some X's to here. I mean, because you got to figure, Riggs, you have to. I really think you have to come out of the blocks with at least 11 something.
Absolutely, I'd agree. We've already talked about this, and that's been our consensus. Is I said we could shoot 2 1200s or 1180, 12. I mean, we've done it before, but you can't shoot, 1,050 the first game or 1,030 or something. You got to get 1,100, and I said, if you can get over 1150 that first game without ruining the lanes, quote unquote, then you're looking at something really possible.
Yeah, I definitely agree because, I mean, just even seeing our team event and how we shaped the lanes, I mean, we did a beautiful job. 1160, 1190, and I think we had another.
Yeah, you had 3 something, good 3 something over after too.
Yeah. So I mean, we were doing really good, and unfortunately, I wasn't all that great, but I'm sure I'll be getting chiropractic. I'll be getting 9 chiropractic bills from sore backs in the mail pretty soon here.
Well, I think you could afford to do that once without them kicking you off the team. But you know what? You're never going to be able to say, I've never been the low man in team. That was one thing we used to always have the old bragging rights about or whatever. You never wanted to be the low guy.
As Matt Canizero says, somebody's got to be the low man.
Yep. Somebody's got to be that guy.
Yep.
Although I'd like to be low man this year with about 703.
That would be a good feeling.
Well, my favorite low guy story is 2008 Team All Events. And the low guy, and I've seen Mike Nape at his best and his worst at this event. I actually had to dodge his shoes in 2006 because he essentially had the all events lead locked up, and he opened in the 9th and 10th frames of his final game, and he came up
know it well.
just short. I believe he shot 2160-ish, 62. It took 2189 that year. So 2 splits opened up, and he knew it. I mean, obviously everybody knew it at that point, and shoes went flying right past me, and he's not the not the least intimidating guy I've ever met, but he was very nice about it. He said, "Matt, I'm probably gonna need a few minutes." I was like, "Yeah, I think so," and he was glad to talk to me after that. But then in 2008, he got in there. 1889, I believe, was his total. Low guy and a Team All Events title, and if that could happen every year, no doubt he'd be fine with being a low man every single time.
Oh, we could sit up here. For those who don't know, Nape is like a brother to me. We bowled doubles in the PBA for years and roomed together week after week in regionals. And one of my all-time best buddies, just like a brother to me. And I could sit up here, trust me, and tell stories for the next 2.5 games only about Mike and have people absolutely in stitches. And hopefully he's going to be on the comeback trail this year. I talked to him a little bit ago. He's said he's lost a pretty decent amount of weight, and his knees are a little better. Last year, physically, I know he had a terrible team event, and he was just physically in bad shape. Kind of got to the point where he hates bowling, truthfully, and hopefully he's a little more fired up. He's had some good tournaments this year, and I'd like to see him get back on the trail. And he's had some close calls that would have put him in the Hall of Fame category. And you told the first one there, 2008, all events. I remember him calling me after that one and telling me the whole story.
I remember the first time I met you was when I met Mike Nape, too, for the first time at Fox Bowl.
Was that at a craps tail? Was that a bowling alley?
No, you were at a bowling center, and it was at the Boot Hill in the summer.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember the first time I met Mike, he was working the bar, and I went up, got a drink, and he was just a nice guy, whatever. And I went back and I said, "Man, he's a big bartender. I won't want to mess with that guy."
No, you wouldn't.
And he goes, "Well, that's Mike Nape." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, Mike!" Because I've heard so much about him, and so I always got to talking with him, and just absolutely great guy.
Great guy.
He is words can't say it.
When he bowls bad, though, you want to just leave him alone for about 10 or 15 minutes or however long it might be.
It's like the big grizzly bear.
Yeah. I don't think he's probably not that way anymore because he's not taking it as serious in that. But, boy, there was a few times bowling regionals and stuff. Fox Bowl will be here, that team with Greg Zika. Those guys, great team. They'll be coming in again in, I think, around June 22nd or so.
Yeah, they usually bowl in June,
They
don't
bowl
they?
late.
Yeah.
Bowling industry guys, and, you don't. That's part of why we moved later. We got a couple guys that run centers, and you just want to get past the bowling season.
Yeah. As we see Tom Korth on 36, week 10.
Matt, when you guys bowled and your third game score went, a little bit down, was it more carry that you lost as a team?
Yeah, it really was. I think, a lot of 10s, a lot of 4s. I think it might have been we just need to make a bigger move, instead of, because we're pretty good at just, make a small move, stay close, make a small move, stay close. And I think that's our bread and butter is really grinding. That's our main forte. And I think on the right side, at least, I threw 6 good shots, so it didn't matter where I was. But I think on the right side, what I seen was that I think the move just need to be, you just need to kind of take that step. I think the lanes got to that point where you just need to make that step and maybe soften up in the hand and the speed and just kind of let it ride the trough a little bit and set up in front of the pocket. And I think everybody, we're all amped up and we're trying to put some strikes on the board. So, it's even with how many years those guys have been doing it, it never gets easier.
Now, this to me, the reason I ask is this to me is looking like what I saw today. I sat and watched most of, or a good slice of, the crossing together teams. Doug Kent on one team and a bunch of other huge names, Ken Moscato and Alex Aguilar. And then, of course, the other team was last year's second-place team with Greg Thomas, Tony Leavitt, Bob Davidson. And they had 10 guys. Well, they had 2 lefties, 8 righties. So they had 8 guys on the right side that played, like, crossing the arrows were 7, 8 boards different.
Wow.
Because they have a couple guys that have a whole lot of hand, and then you have, like, Tony, who's really straight. And you could just see the way the lanes transitioned. There wasn't really the definition wasn't there. And I saw a lot of, like, 2-pin and then some Greek church-type hits and shots were not that bad, and it was just, I could just see that they hadn't really developed the tube or the trough in a really defined manner, and they were kind of a lot of shaking heads. They had 32-something, 33 humps, so it was pretty good, but they had guys so far different. It wasn't a real strategically broken down pattern, and I just think you have such an advantage in this tournament if you have 10 guys with It doesn't have to all be straight, doesn't have to all be tweener, doesn't have to all be, or it doesn't have to be one specific style, but all together and similar is a key.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you. I think I think that's what makes us so great, especially like a team like yours or even a team like ours, is that we have, for the most part, everybody plays the same part of the lane, and we all play it together, and we can get great reads off of each other. And, I think for people, I've been telling this to people downstairs at the showcase lanes, I go, what's to stop you from, your friend Joe who bowls league with you, throws just like you, try to get him on your team. Try to recruit, try to improve your team. You want to improve what you have already, but sometimes guys fit and guys don't. So that's certainly an aspect for a lot of teams who want to get better. I think one of the best ways to do that is get a collection of people who play the lanes just like you do.
And I'll give you one that I talked about on the live stream you were on, the 10 lefty group. I watched some of their minor events and talked to them about their team event. And J.C. Kramer's a good buddy of mine. I know a couple of the other guys, Sullinger and that, from out in the Omaha, Nebraska area. And it was very funny. And I don't want this to come off like I'm picking on lefties, but with 10 of them together, they experienced things that they didn't understand. And they said, we want to talk to you about this and what we saw. I was talking to them while they were bowling minors. And it was real funny because they didn't really know how to adjust in such a large increment. Not that they don't know how to adjust, but they don't know how to adjust like right-handers of having 10 on a pair, making huge moves, and they never moved enough. And it's not a group that, is Parker Bowen and Mike Albee type. They're not at that level, but they're decent players, and they were kind of confused by that, but they're very excited to do it again next year. And I thought you two guys being left-handed, it's very interesting to talk to them about it and hear how, what should we have done, and basically they tried to kind of ball down and just move a little bit or something, and what they really needed to do was make that bigger move, open up the lane, and I think they would have had something pretty good, because I know JC in singles and doubles shot 660, 690, and made a big stash of bracket cash.
Well, and that was the first thing I thought of, when I heard about that. Being left-handed, you have to understand that you're used to being, one or two of you on a pair, and immediately you have to know that you're going to see a kind of transition and have to think through some things that you've never seen, you're not used to, and you think that would be the immediate downfall, is that it's just something that you've never had to deal with. And back in college, and I say it often, we followed a St. John's team that had 4 lefties on it, and you have a completely different look when you get to that pair, and by the time you either figure it out or realize what happened, it's already the 7th frame and it's too late. But the fact that they learn from it a little bit, and I think if they can practice together and get the hang of that, certainly they can treat the lanes or open them up, like the right-handers do, and experience some of those same things. And who knows what could happen there.
Yeah, if I was a really, really good left-hander, and I really wanted to attack this tournament, I would try to network with other really, really good left-handers from across the country, because the odds of in the same area finding 5 or 10 that are really that good are difficult. But I would try to find a group of really good lefties, get them together, play the lanes the same, and try to attack this tournament the way right-handers do. Because when you have a pattern that's typically a sport pattern, opening it up is the way to go. And usually if you don't have it right from the gate, the odds of you getting it. How do you think you would have done the last couple of years? Charles helped you, obviously, for the most part, hasn't he?
Oh yeah, Charles is.
And you help him.
Yeah. We help each other, and I looked to Baton Rouge team event the first time that we all three really bowled together on something very challenging. We broke that pair down so nice. I had 790, Chuck had 7. So it worked out really, really well. But, those are Chuck and Dave Hoppenrath.
That's right, you have Dave in your group,
yeah,
too.
Those guys have been doing it for longer than I've been alive. And so they have a lot of insight to share with me. And then, I kind of grown up in the more modern game that we're in right now, so I can give a lot back to them. So we really feed off each other, and the three of us work really well together.
I think the hardest thing if I was left-handed would be to be one lone left-hander on a decent, really good team, and to be bowling and not have anything and not be able to break it down. and your right-handed guys are crushing them. I'm thinking of my buddy Doug Becker, who might be listening out there, who bowls with Dave Armstrong's team, and Ronnie Horton, those guys. And I just think, maybe Doug could shoot 780 one year when his side's good and the left side or the right side isn't so good. But the worst thing in the world to me would be to have nothing and know there's nothing that's going to come to you, and have your guys crushing. And that's why I just. Nothing against lefties, but you're about the only lefty in the world I would take on my team.
Well, I mean, we've seen it a little bit this year. On our team all events leaders, junior team USA Support 1. Jeffrey Merce was a little guy.
He's a really good player.
The lone left-hander. He's a great bowler, PBA regional champ, former junior team USA, college standout. He was low on the team by more than 100 pins.
Sure.
Mark Moore, bowling with SME Pro Shop, struggled in the team event. Had a great singles event to get him to the front of the group for the year. But a lot of great lefties out there with a little bit of help. Like you said, it's all about breaking the lanes down. And if you can't do it, by the time it starts to happen, you're already done.
And we've got a group like that tonight, I believe, down on the high end. Some very familiar names here. Michael Mullen is the anchor man for BuddiesProShop.com with Brian Graham from the Ebonite Hammer thing. Is he still with Ebonite Hammer?
He's actually with Brunswick and Deviate
Brunswick
now.
now. I'm sorry. He's been with a couple of different companies. And great guy. Love Brian. Was with USBC for a while, too. And then Sam Macarone's on that team. Chris Forey and Matt, I'll never pronounce that right, Dwyer. And but I think Mike's the only lefty in that group and a heck of a player, but I would be real interested to see what a guy like that with that kind of skills shoots and works in with the other guys.
Sam Macarone. Now there is a name I haven't heard for a while.
I've got a piece of bowling trivia semi-history that you even don't know.
All right.
Unless you've heard me tell the story before, that I am responsible for Sam Macarone's first PBA Tour title.
No way.
My one career PBA Tour highlight was 1988 Riverside, California. Bull and Sam in position round were 5th and 6th. Basically, the winner of that game is going to make the show. And they were brutal. I think I was 207 for that tournament. It was the lowest scoring tournament of the year, I think. Anyway, it comes down, and last game, 10th frame, I need the first strike in the 10th, and I make the TV show. And trust me, they're hard. And ring and 10. It was one of the best shots I ever threw in my whole life. One of the few times in my life where I ever really kind of felt like crying about bowling. I was very proud of how I threw the shot, but I kind of knew my wrist was starting to get bad then, and I kind of knew that might be my only chance that I'd ever have. Well, next day, Sam makes the TV, he's on the TV show then, and he runs the ladder, wins the title. I think it was Walter Ray was top seed, if I'm not mistaken. And like 3 weeks later, in Windsor, Canada, across from Detroit, he wins again. And those were Sam's 2 PBA Tour titles. And whenever I run into him, I always jab him about that. I said, my ring in 10 is the only reason you're a PBA Tour champion. I like to kid him. I gave him the first title or that. And that's my lone highlight. It's nice to see him. I want to say something interesting here, because for the folks at home watching, you can't see this setup, but we got a cool setup. Canizero and Riggs are actually behind the regular live stream table, behind the cameras. I'm sitting in the booth right next to the counter here that backs up to the settee, so I'm kind of like the on-lane reporter. And I'm looking out here on the lanes, and I have not seen any red strikes yet. I thought for sure we would see some red strikes, but first game with all the celebs and all the talent, no red strikes. So I'm really surprised we didn't see any red strikes this game. But Buddies Pro Shop they're putting up a number there that first game. I see 3 holes and 1 270 going, 1 potential about 250, 1 around 2-0. Mullen's got a 240 or 50 potential, and Sam Macarone has 2 holes, but he also has 2 doubles. They've got a chance to shoot a pretty solid first game there.
Yeah, that could get pretty big, especially if Chris Forey.
Yeah, he's got 279 if he goes over. Can't see his count. 278 it looks like. 8 count.
Well, guys,
he just struck again too.
As we saw just a little over a month ago, Matt, you were actually sitting in that very seat, and it was this same pair.
Yep.
We saw a 12:06 game that certainly turned some heads. And then 2 hours later, we were finishing off the highest set in history.
To me, that's unfathomable to shoot 12.06 the first game out here. I don't know how, maybe Matt's different than me, but the hardest game I bowl all year long is the first game of team event out here, because there is no adrenaline rush like bowling the start of team event in this tournament. And one of the things that gets me is the national anthem.
Yeah.
I was just listening to it here. I'm not bowling for 2 weeks. I'm listening to it. I had like goosebumps on the back of my neck. I had my hair standing up. It was like I was going to go bowl. And I get that when we bowl every year, and it's so hard to slow down and relax and just let the ball go. And it's when the lanes are fresh that you have to do that the most. And, you know, getting a huge first game, if I ever get a big first game, I'm always astounded because you're just fighting all that adrenaline and stuff. So I can't even conceive of how they had 12.06 the first game.
Well, I'm looking at the top 10 right now, and only the first place team and the 10th place teams had their first game higher than their second game.
Yeah.
So, like you said, that's the point where, you know, the strategy comes into play. That's when you're setting things up. And for Riggs, you guys in 2010, it was game one that pretty much cost you guys a run at it.
Yeah.
You know, and then it was like 960.
Yeah, 967. I'll never forget that game.
Impossible to recover almost. I mean, obviously making a run would be.
We took the lead, but it wasn't a score that could win.
Right, and then in 2011 to come back, get about 100 more the first game, you know, breaking them down, grinding it out, and of course finish the night off with the highest game ever.
The thing this year is that the lanes are such with some hook to start with. You don't have to sacrifice and play the lanes wrong or in a place where you wouldn't play if you wanted an immediate score. So the 1200s are out there. And you don't have to say play 5 board when really the pattern wants you to play at 10 if you're trying to strike right away. You can play right at somewhere around 10 board, a little to the right, a little left, depending on your rev rate. That's why you can get that 1200 the first game if you can relax, if you can make your shots.
Well, we saw these guys come in here, the Locker guys, 35 and 36, with a little bit different strategy than we've seen so far this year. And, you know, a few strikes on the board, but quite a few holes.
Yeah, the opens are killing them.
And so things not going as smoothly as I'm sure they hoped here in game number one. But with Matt McNeil just right there in front of the action, perhaps they'll want to share some thoughts after game one's over. I don't know, you know, what the mood's going to be. But certainly to get to 3,500, you need a whole lot, all 3 games. Certainly we'll see how things develop, of course. You know, a good start to the 10th frame here. But a long way to go and a lot of ground to make up, certainly after game number one.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're looking at it. They got 762. Dave Lehner, a.k.a. His nickname is Lumpy back home, or Mini-Me. Affectionately known as Lumpy. And Lump's got a $192 with all 10 here in the 10th. So that'll put him at 772. And they got one guy on a string.
Yeah,
So, I mean, you're looking at just trying to get a decent cashing score, much less take the lead.
And did they have 30? They had 32 something last year. I don't think they didn't get to 33, but they were close to top 10 or top 10, I believe, last year.
They actually finished ninth. It was, I believe, 34-47-ish was the number, somewhere in that range. But again, you know, when we saw their first few frames, certainly we were not seeing that team, and curious to see, you know, how they recover again from a really slow start here in game one.
Well, the Buddies Pro Shop team got 4 strikes and a spare in the 9th frame, so they are definitely looking at a potential big start. So we might be keeping an eye towards them tonight.
And I know they got to be liking, with a full squad, with all the bracket money, they got to be licking their chops with that big of a start. That's a good start out there for those brackets.
Got another Hall of Famer that I didn't mention, looking through these sheets, way down on the end, even past Buddies Pro Shop, down on 53 and 4, Jan Schmidt.
Oh, yeah.
Who also today was elected to the USBC board again. And on her team is her good friend, boyfriend, Jeff Henry, one of the members of my team when we won the team title in 1986. Used to be a USBC employee back when things were in Milwaukee. Great guy, and like Jan. Of course, most people probably know Jan from her announcing days with the Ladies Pro Tour.
Yep. I believe she helped out on a couple U.S. Open telecasts, too, with Marshall Holman.
We might see her when we have the telecast. They haven't announced the announcers for this year's U.S. Open, have they?
No.
Because we're going to have men and women on that show.
I think we should nominate me and you. And Flanagan.
Oh, God.
Now that would get some ratings right there.
I'm going to be in the Northwoods of Wisconsin at my girlfriend's family's cabin that weekend with McDowell and his wife, Richter and his girlfriend, and a slew of people, Tom Howry and his wife, going to the Minocqua Brew Fest on the day of the U.S. Open show.
Ooh.
Having some fun that weekend, a little team bonding. So.
Well, we are going to see Jan Schmidt tomorrow, I believe, in our next broadcast. We'll be at the Women's Championships showing Carolyn Doran-Ballard's team. And I believe that Jan Schmidt is on the crossing team for tomorrow. So we will see. That is 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. on the East Coast here on Bowl TV. Right now you're watching the Locker guys here at the 2013 USBC Open Championships at the National Bowling Stadium. Matt Cannizzaro, Matt McNeil, and Jeff Riggles getting it done here. Game 1.
What have you seen? You did a webcast already over at the women's. What's the scoring pace and the pattern looking like there?
Well, hard to tell. It's still very early in that event, just a few weeks in, some slow days. And, we'll see how things really unfold as we get some better teams coming through. So we'll certainly gauge it based on this week with some great players. I know Brandy's over there right now. Actually, they're bowling the team event. They're the defending Diamond Team champions.
Oh, yeah.
So I got them pulled up here on xbowling.com.
And that's team with Jackie Wyckoff?
No, this is the Diamond.
The next one down, okay.
Correct. The handicap, Jackie and them were the scratch team champs. So a lot of players starting to come to town and some titles going on the line, and we'll show some of them.
Front six?
Here coming up. So we'll have our second broadcast will be tomorrow of 6 or 7 for the year. So looking forward to showcasing that event, that venue a little bit, and just getting out of the stadium for a couple hours and showing some of the best women bowlers in the world. So.
And today I watched here the same squad, Doug Kent and that group bowled, and Greg Thomas's group, Mrs. Kent bowled, it was Mrs. Bone.
Mrs. Bone, Leslie
Mrs.
was
Kent
in
was
town.
not here.
Yep.
And Tammy Turner and Carolyn Doran-Ballard, that whole group bowled, and Leslie was throwing it just fantastic. And they had a good 31, I believe. I didn't get their final score, but they were definitely playing pretty well. And, of course, everybody's out here. For those who didn't know, last night was the USBC Hall of Fame induction, so that's why there's so many Hall of Famers hanging out, and many of them bowling. And for the women, a chance to bowl in 2 tournaments at once.
Well, and those ladies will be back here at 10:30 tonight to wrap things up with doubles and singles.
Really?
And then I believe they're going to go back-to-back tomorrow at the women's event. So a lot of bowling in a short trip, and we'll have it all for you live on Bowl TV tomorrow.
Well, Riggs, let's get a census here, because we're not going to see 1,000 between either team. And
it looks like you can say whatever you want about their strategy. It looks like they've got them broke down pretty well.
Yeah.
I mean, the ball's going in the pocket pretty consistently unless you make a real errant shot, but I'm not seeing any carry whatsoever.
No. And this is typically known as a really good pair here. I mean, I think I've been on this pair before, and I've done usually pretty well here.
I don't think you have too many bad pairs here.
No, I definitely agree with that.
I have always despised the pairs from about 33 to about 46. Those are the this whole area here from bowling many PBA events here when all the years the resident pro was here. And those pairs, I like the low end and I like the higher end. And these pairs in the middle here just crushed me all the time, it seemed like.
Was that on the old surface?
Yeah, well, some of it was, most of it was actually, and some of it was not. But we bowled minors on like 39 and 40 or 41 and 2 and 43 and 4. It was right in this area in, I want to say, 2010. And, man, we took the team all events lead with like 9,600 that year. And I thought our group bowled so good, and our carry was so bad, and our ball reaction was bad. These pairs kind of got a psych job on me. And of course, I'll probably walk in here now and we'll be on, 39 and 40 or something. But like you said, the scores have come off of this pair: 35 and 6, 37 and 8. So.
Well, don't forget the National Bowling Stadium in the midst of a $15 million renovation. And the first part of that, of course, was adding 10 lanes downstairs where there used to be a restaurant.
That's
There's
beautiful.
now the 900 global showcase lanes, an opportunity for your team to get together, have a team practice session for a reasonable price. For a few dollars more, you can have the expert coaching analysis of Matt McNeil and get the tips on how to play the lanes, ball surfaces, you name it. And it's all available there, as well as 2 side events. So really, I've had a number of people come up to me today, and they're here for the first time this year. And unbelievable, the fact that there's 4 events going on inside this building right now. The 2 side events downstairs, a 2-game challenge, opportunity to get a little bit loose and maybe win a few dollars today. And there's a daily payout and a year-long as well. So 2 quick games if you're looking to just get loose. And then there's a real fun Baker Trios. The Who's Got the Look Baker Bonanza. 3 of you guys go out there and you each bowl 3 frames in the game, and then you get to select who's going to bowl the 10th frame, who's got the look. And something different, different divisions, average-based, so something for everybody here.
That's beautiful down there. I checked it out today. It's gorgeous.
And the future phases of the renovation, potentially the front of the building for sure, the squad room, the concourse, so everything's going to get a total overhaul. $15 million is quite a bit of money.
And I double-checked because we talked about it the other night. The lanes will be installed before 2016.
Okay.
The next new lanes.
Gotcha.
And I would like to take 29 and 30 home, please. Ship it to my house.
Can I have 29? You want
okay,
30?
if you give me 30.
Okay, you got
All
it. All right, I'll take
fair.
29. I had that's my 820 pair.
Okay.
And I finished on the left lane and shot 300 on it. So, yeah.
Because that was our 1280 pair.
That's a good
our
pair.
Eagle one. Yeah, I like that pair. And of course, we bowled on it in 2010 as well.
Yep. I call that the U-Haul pair. Because you're going to load up and move on up.
Good pair. Looking down here, Buddy's pro shot. Matt's probably mad at me for keeping track here since the cameras aren't on that pair. But 258, 256, 223. However, Sam Macarone opened the 10th, 7-2 for 168, I think. Looks like Mike Mullen can sheet in the 10th for 248. So they would be looking at a decently healthy, close to 1150 if Mike Mullen can go off the sheet. So that's the kind of start you need, I really believe. And these guys, unfortunately, in front of us, the Locker guys, a 987 and a 1000.
And I'm down here on the action, and one of the members of the Locker guys, too, Bob Hager, wanted to send out a hello and I love you to his kids and wife back home in Owatonna, Minnesota. So Bob giving a shout out to his family back home.
Well, game 1 in the books here on lanes 35 and 36 with the Locker guys. 987 for the Locker guy 1 and 1,000 even for the Locker guy 2 on lane 36. So a lot of work to do coming up if these guys are going to make a dent in the team standings here in 2013. On top, 35-38. 5th place, 34-69, and to make the top 10 right now, 34-02. So
wow.
They're minus 13
That's
after
one pin higher
game
than
1.
last year's winning score.
Yeah.
Isn't it? 3401 last year. Wow.
Yeah, we had 13400 in Baton Rouge, and
It won.
it was enough to win. So far 10, and 3401 not even in the top 10.
You know, I'm really surprised we have not seen an 800 yet.
I'm astounded. Number one, we've got the highest scoring team event condition in history. And then number 2, you've got the 6 on a pair, don't have to move, can break down the pattern in the minor events, even though it's a much tougher pattern. I'm amazed there isn't an 800 yet.
And 3, Matt McNeil's bowled already.
Yeah. There you go. Well, you know, if you hadn't punched that big 4,
I know.
then you would have got it there the last game. It would have been 800.
I've thought about it a couple times. I'm gonna go out and predict Locker Guy 1 is gonna do a lot better this game.
You know, one thing I wonder if this played into it. These are guys that aren't used to being in the spotlight, so to speak, in the live stream. And, you know, you can't keep it out of your mind. You know, we've done it a few times in the first year. There's no doubt it was something new. And when you're sitting there thinking that every shot you throw, somebody at home can be watching it and that sort of thing, and it adds to the circus atmosphere, I guess, is a little bit what it is.
Well, Riggs, you touched on a couple of things that we definitely should talk about, and that's the format changes here in 2013. We're talking about the lane conditions and different things. For the first time in history this year, 2 different lane conditions. And right now we're looking at a 41-foot team pattern and the doubles and singles pattern, 39 feet, and very similar to last year in Baton Rouge, a tough scoring pattern for sure. And you're certainly seeing that as we can talk about the actual scores and performances in a minute. But yeah, first time ever, 2 different conditions. So a real test of versatility, especially as you're trying to chase down that all events number. You have to conquer now 2 different lane conditions. But a huge factor now is that every squad is contested on fresh oil. So there's no wonder about who you're going to follow or if you're going to have a good follow or not. It's your environment at that point. And again, we talk about teamwork and strategy, playing the lanes together as a team. Well, now with 6 bowlers on a pair instead of 4, and you get the fresh oil, it's basically just like the team event. You guys have to get out there and have an idea what you're going to do because you're going to be there for 6 games. Where in the past, you're 4 guys, you'd flip to another pair between doubles and singles and have a completely different environment at that point. But now, fresh oil, 6 games on 1 pair with 6 people changes the game quite a bit. And now, Riggs, you guys, again, are big on the whole strategy, playing together. You have a game plan, you come in. What are the thoughts based on what you've seen for attacking doubles and singles now compared to the past?
Well, I mean, doubles and singles for all the years I've ever bowled this tournament is about the biggest crapshoot in the history of bowling. I mean, it is complete, absolute, luck isn't the right word. It's just chance, sort of. If you have the right people in front of you for all those years, you could absolutely have almost a house condition to bowl on. And if you had the wrong people, you had no chance. And I've won Eagles when I had the right people, and I'm the first person to admit that was great assistance. I've also had years when, coming off team event, we thought we were going to just knock them dead and look forward to the next day and had, a lot of plastic balls going up the lane, carrying oil down, and had nothing whatsoever. So the equity factor in the new format is, I've written about it for years, and I can't praise it enough. I think it's the greatest equity change this tournament's ever gone through, and it's basically become 9 games of team bowling. And we've got a game plan that we've put together for each event, and we're going to see how it turns out. But everybody determines their own fate completely now, and as much as humanly possible. Obviously, you could have a bad pairs happen and that sort of thing, but it's up to you now to determine how your pair plays. It's not walking in praying that the people in front of you will play the lanes right, quote unquote. And I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think this year really showed for me. I mean, we got to me and Chuck, we had a great game plan. We went in and we executed it. Unfortunately, Chuck just couldn't get his ball reaction ironed out. But until later on. But, I mean, we set him up perfect. And, I had a great ball reaction, especially in singles. So, I mean, it just goes to show that, even if you work together and you come in with a strategy, an effective strategy, and the right tools to do the job, you can make something really nice out of your pair. You just got to do your homework and put some work into it.
And well, the Locker guys here certainly they put some work into game number 1, and we talked about their strategy and whether or not it would pay off, because it's different and how it will turn out. And here they're going strike happy in game number 2, but potentially did they give away too much early on?
They gave away too much to have a chance to win. But you don't come here thinking, you come here with the goal to win if you're a good player, but you come here to do the best you can and maximize your performance. And a little struggle the first game, but if they still have 2 good games here, they've got team all events chances, and you can get a big check in the team event.
Yeah, I think the one thing I'd say about that is The only thing I would be worried about doing something like that, about sacrificing a game 1 to have a great game 2 and 3, would be your super brackets, your brackets, and I don't know mentally what you're thinking, knowing you got to go. I mean, basically, if they wanted to take the lead over, they'd have to go, 570 over in 2 games. So I don't know if I'd want that hanging over my head either.
They do that, I'm going drinking with them tonight.
Yeah, me. I'm buying them. I'm buying them around. I'll tell you that.
No. If they do that, they're buying.
Oh, that's right. I
mean, you have to look at it too, though. I mean, some of it could be strategy. Some of it, as you saw the other night, is just not bowling well. I mean, there's guys, where you're out of your comfort zone. Maybe you're sacrificing a little bit, to look at the bigger picture. But occasionally, it's just things not going well. Poor shots and poor spare shooting, and it adds up quickly. So hard to know. Perhaps if we get a word in with them later on, find out kind of what happened there, and perhaps they'll follow it up here with a big game too.
Well, I wrote up our strategy already. I had a blog on what we're probably going to do, and in minors, we're basically going to sacrifice the practice balls, and then the first half of the first game is what we saw how long it took in our practice by playing out with surface out around 4, 5, 6, which is what we tried to do in Baton Rouge last year for team, because this pattern's pretty close to that. And I think McDowell and Shady being harder and straighter, it might not hurt them too much. Mark looked pretty good when we did that in practice. Steve and I, Richter and Myers and Gepfert and our other guys, we were all over the place. If I'm clean the first 5 frames, I will be the happiest person on the planet in minor events. And but I'm telling you, with what we did, we made them so nice when we tilted in and started swinging to that spot. Holy moly, were they nice. And you've seen that with many players in this tournament in minor events. If you look at the scores, lower first games and big sets after that. And I think if you got to maximize 6 games. You got to think of it that way. And it requires doing what's necessary at the practice balls in the start.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
I've got one here for Matt. You might have missed something here.
All right.
Both Matts.
Oh,
probably
okay.
more in Canizero. I've got a text here from Satan, from Steve Richter. Do we see it right? 2 900 shooters on the squad. PJ Gisfeld and Robbie Porter. Are they both on this squad?
Aaron Smith actually asked me that earlier. Robbie Porter, and it's...
Must be using the X-Bowling app to see that.
No, it's... hold on, let's look this up. Aaron got confused between Porter and Porter Lane.
Yeah, it was Robbie. I don't know how to pronounce that.
Let's see.
That's right. That's not Robbie Porter.
Robbie Porter actually is on. He was on Sacto in 2009. That event, the longest in history, lasted 154 days, and the top 2 teams bowled 10 lanes apart on the very same squad. So obviously, Lynn's Limited comes away with the team and team all events titles. Sacto right behind them, going into the 10th frame for the win, and the experience and the obvious talent level of Lynn's Limited won out.
Yeah, and we had the lead going into that night, got beat twice, and never got beat again. Amazing.
So the 900 shooter, Robbie Portalatin from Jackson, Michigan.
That's right. Richter, Satan, you got that one wrong.
And the other is PJ Geisfeld, bowling on 29 and 30 right now.
And he's a Milwaukee area guy, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
I can just see Richter with some horns and a goatee.
I got a picture in my phone I'll show you later from New Year's Eve where he set one up for me for a picture.
I like it.
Look at how many strikes these guys got up here.
Well,
so an interesting strategy. Like I said, at the end of that game, they were hitting the pocket just fine. It was a matter of finding a way to get in the pocket. I haven't paid much attention in my old age. My eyes do not see very well, but I have not seen an enormous amount of ball changes. Have there been a bunch?
No, I think it's just more just starting to move left. And I think
Dave Langer's really made a move there.
Oh yeah, and you want to talk about a guy who can open up the lane and just club you over the head repeatedly.
I've been there.
Oh yeah,
with him.
This guy, he may be small, but he beats the. He's not happy unless he's beating your brains into the approach. When you're bowling him heads up.
Well, these guys piling the strikes on in game number 2, but we certainly have our eye on Buddy's Pro Shop as well. They are striking, and they shot 1134 in game number 1. So I know John Gaines is at home watching because he already sent me a text message. It's Friday night, time to sit home and relax, but I have a feeling he's not getting much relaxing done right now, especially after we talked about the amazing talent level of this squad and just how long it took to go through the announcements tonight. And, of course, some great scores already with the one game in the books.
I've got a doubles pairing for you that I think would be really cool. Langer, Gail Myers Jr.
Oh.
Together, I don't think they're as tall as T.O.
No.
Or at least Shaq for sure. But probably two of the best diminutive bowlers in America. I love my little teammate.
I would happen to agree with that.
Well, your little teammate, the lifetime average leader.
Fantastic. Most underrated bowler in bowling.
So I don't know if you noticed, but on our live stream schedule, let me pull that up for you. On bowl.com, folks, if you're curious about what's coming up, on bowl.com, the live stream schedule from the Open and Women's Championships. It's on the right-hand side of your screen, on bowl.com. Bowl TV Live. On May 17th, you can watch average leader Gail Myers Jr. and his team.
Yeah, he's the king on it. Him and Shades are the kings on our team. I get lots of PR because I write my blog and I won a few things way long ago, but Shady is definitely the superior player on our team, and Gail is the man we depend on. That guy throws strikes. If you need a strike, that's the guy you send up there on our team. And a lifetime average leader. He's only the lifetime average leader for 3 more years, though. Or, let's see, and then Shady will have that, because Shady's like 17 years in, he's 24 or 25, something like that, which is ridiculous. And then, of course, Matt, you'll be like, when you get 13 more years in, you'll be 242 or something like that. And I'll be collecting Social Security. I want to give a shout out to John Gaines if he's out there on there, great bowling. Not a guy I get to see too often. I've met him once or twice. But I got a feeling I'll be seeing him 1 year from now when we have next year's Hall of Fame inductions.
Yeah, definitely
I know
worthy.
he's on the USBC Superior Performance or USBC Outstanding Performance category, and he and my early prediction, being on the committee, this isn't any kind of inside knowledge or nothing. It's just based on what I've seen of resumes. Dale Traber moves over to that category next
Traber,
year,
yeah.
and I guarantee with his resume, that guy's probably going to be an inductee next year. And John Gaines, especially if he adds this eagle this year and the record score, I would think he would be the other guy. That might be your two inside track guys for next year's Hall of Fame.
Is there going to be an over/under if Dale smiles?
You know what? That guy gets a bad rap. He's actually a really funny, nice guy. It's just that when he bowls, he's grumpy. He growls, he snarls, he's very grumpy a lot of times. But you get him off the lane and you respect him and are nice to him, and he's a great friend and always there to buy a beer, and he's really actually a little cuddly teddy bear. But you know what? He doesn't want anybody to know that.
Oh, okay. Well, I hope he doesn't get mad at you for...
I don't care.
Oh, okay.
He'll just growl at me. Him and I can... When I bowl doubles with Dale, I start saying things to him that I know anger him because then he starts getting pumped up.
Yeah.
And he bowls better that way, and that's just kind of the way he is. But I understand. I was supposed to go up to the Wisconsin State Hall of Fame the year that he was inducted, which was, I believe, 2 years ago, and I didn't get to go because my girlfriend Sue's mom went into the hospital and then hospice right at that time, so I just couldn't go. And I heard his speech was one of the best they ever had. So I'm looking forward to him next year giving us a good speech here at the Hall of Fame ceremony.
No, I got to cross with Dale at the Fusion Realtors, the first one, when it was at Maple. And I got to cross with Dale, and I think Dale might be in the IHL. I don't know. But
the IHL.
I hate lefties.
Oh. You know what, though? You know what Dale is he respects if you're a good lefty, though.
Okay, all right.
Here's a Nape story.
All right.
Dale also has this thing, stinking wind-ups. He's always had a thing about anybody that hits it a lot. And and I remember him saying once to Mike Nape, "Yeah, Mike, you're a wind-up too, but you don't always have to do that. You know how to play elsewhere, and you're a good bowler, so you're okay." That was a famous Dale thing.
Well, folks, if you're just joining us, thank you very much. This is Matt Canizaro, Matt McNeil, and Jeff Riggles bringing it to you live from the 2013 USBC Open Championships. We are behind lanes 35 and 36 at the National Bowling Stadium watching the Locker Guy.
And I've seen some scoreboards at this tournament like that before, and they might not be able to win, but boy, they keep bowling like this, they're going to make a move to a big number.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Mr. Sideline Reporter there, since you're mobile, I'm getting texts and Facebook messages are blowing up my phone, which is almost out of juice. Sorry, folks. Begging for ball knowledge, what they're using. I've got some predictions that it looks like IQ Tour solids from a couple guys. And
all right. Currently on the rack, we have
a lot of black stuff. That's why
yes.
People are predicting IQ Tour solids.
We got a Matt Myers throwing a disturbed by Rotogrip.
Break.
I'm seeing, let's see here, Sam Sylvester, I believe, IQ Tour solid. Dan Bock.
Dan is a Storm staffer, so
yep,
you know
he's
that's
Storm staff. So, and this team all wearing Storm logos, so I feel there is going to be a lot of Storm Roto on the rack.
Smart guys.
Dan Bock, IQ Tour solid. Sam Sylvester, IQ Tour solid. Dave Ullman is a Brunswick staffer.
Okay.
Jason Guest. He's throwing his paranormal aura.
And has the front five.
So shout out to Jason Guest and the Brunswick folks. I'll continue the updates as we go here, guys, as I see the players. Chad Nelson, Victory Road Pearl.
Wow.
I could smell the maple syrup from back here. That's what it smelled like.
Pancakes, yes.
Yeah, I was wondering if anybody's making pancakes. Kind of made me want to go to the Black Bear Diner off Virginia. But
that's amazing that he can throw that ball on this, right?
Oh, I know.
To me, I think mine would go straight through the pins.
And I just confirmed their...
Oh, look at how straight he's going and striking.
Everybody's throwing an IQ Tour solid.
Yeah.
Everybody else has an IQ Tour solid in their hand. I think that ball is pretty good.
A couple nice texts from John Gaines there. Riggs and I will wheel our wheelchairs up when Matt McNeil goes in. That's about right, John. I hope I'm still alive then, because I'm going to be very old when that comes around. You have to get 20 years in, and then you have to serve. The way the rules are now, you have to go 3 years onto the Superior Performance ballot, where if you're a USBC player like we are, you're going to be on the ballot with all the PBA Tour stars. So kind of locks us out. Of course, if Matt has like 15 Eagles by then, maybe he'll get in through that way. But even Traber couldn't get in that way. So you get 3 years on that. Then you get to move over to the other ballot, the USBC ballot.
And Mr. McNeil will soon be the oldest player in college bowling and the only one with 3 Eagles. So headed to Wichita State in the fall for a whole new experience, doing things a little bit backwards, and then who knows after that, maybe add a couple of PBA titles and some different things.
That's true.
Down the road.
Boy, there was some, when I wrote that story, there was some nasty reaction about that.
Oh, about the Wichita?
It was unfair for a player as good as you to go bowl college for somebody. I didn't quite understand that. There's rules, and you meet the rules, you got eligibility. Heck, I got 4 years eligibility left. I ought to go get a grad degree.
Well, Nick Hoagland just got it done. He bowled when I was in college back in the late 1990s, early 2000s, and he had 1 year left, and just a couple of years ago went out there and made All-American again, as certainly a veteran, as we would say, a classic player in the collegiate realm.
And I know John Gaines and his teammates would be very concerned to see what's going on with Buddy's Pro Shop. They are clean this game through 4 frames. They have 2 guys with a double spare strike, a 4-bagger, a spare strike spare, and a strike spare double. And they all have strikes working in the 4th frame. So we have something brewing over there that could make John Janowitz, John Gaines, and those guys a little nervous. Janowitz may still be here. I don't know if he went home, but he was there last night. He came in for Shirley Hintz-Levens going into the Hall of Fame, Bulls mixed doubles with Shirley. An original or native cheesehead who's lived in Florida for years and went into the Hall of Fame last night. And he was there to support her. I had a nice chance to chat with him and congratulate him on his awesome bowling this year. Told him I hoped he ended up 2nd in team event. But they definitely got it brewing down there on Buddy's Pro Shop. I don't know.
Oh, they do.
I have not met either Chris or Matt on that team. I know Brian, Sam, and Michael. I don't believe I've met Chris or Matt. Ooh, Mr. Bock is in there deep. Now here's a guy, this tells you how good Dan Bock is, how versatile he is. He was throwing ropes up about 10 when we started relative for him, and he's now in wheeling between 15 and 20. And he's one of those guys that has that power release, but it's so clean and his swing's so loose. I'm so envious of that. I have to fall over to get anywhere near that kind of rev rate on it.
Well, Dan's a timeless player, of course. He's got the one title that has eluded you so far in your career. Yep. Back in 1993, and that's 20 years ago. And I never would guess that he was as experienced or classic, as they say, here at this event. But 1993.
You want to know how he won that year?
I was in middle school.
Or why he did not. He should have finished 2nd that year. You can look this up. My teammate, Brian Tice. Brian, great player, PBA regional champion, bowled some on tour. That year, we crushed him in minors. And Brian shot I want to think it was 791 or 793. And Brian missed, hooked by a 6-pin in the 8th or 9th frame of the last game of singles. And I think Dan won with 798, wasn't it? If Brian would have made that 6-pin, he would have had 800, he would have won. And he was like, didn't have an eagle because of that, and also was on a team that shot 3470 in Albuquerque in our group, or our other team at the time, and didn't win with that. But I don't know if Dan Bock knows that story. But also on that squad that year, I had a pair of 740s, had 1490 in minor events, and was 4th high that day in the building. Because Tice had 730, 790. Bob Mackey, coach, USBC guy for years, he had over 1,500, and Jeff Nimke was on our squad also and had a pair of 770s when he set the all events record, all on that squad that day. That was an amazing afternoon. There weren't brackets then, or I would have probably been crying in my beer.
I would agree.
That was an amazing day to bowl. You've never heard so much, yelling and screaming. And
probably sounded like a craps table at the Sands.
I hope there's a little of that tonight.
Now here's a little thing about the Lehner brothers, okay? Every year in Minnesota, we have 2 big doubles tournaments. We have a regular doubles tournament, and then we have a Scotch or alternate shot doubles tournament. The Lehner brothers got on a streak. I'm bowling with Scott Pohl, Carl Fitek, Sam. We got a lot of good teams, right? Todd Savoy will bowl with John East. This is a really stacked doubles tournament. A lot of entries in the field. The Lehner brothers won 4 out of 5.
Wow.
That just tells you how good they are. And these are grind-out tournaments. We're talking 36 games in 2 days. And these guys can grind out and hang numbers on you like you would not believe.
You just brought something up. I think I made an error in the start. I think that the semifinalists, non-members, or the finalists, non-members in that regional I was remembering, were not Dan Bock and Chad Nelson. It was Dan Bock and Scott Pohl.
Yes.
Scott beat me. And
in Alexandria.
In Alexandria.
That's right,
I can't remember which one of them won because I think I was throwing my stuff in the car in anger and driving away after Scott kicked my butt.
Matt Meyer is actually Charlie's son.
Oh, okay.
And they're the proprietor
Beautiful
family.
Nice shot.
Yeah.
Beautiful facility up there.
Nice spare by Dave Ullman. How about that?
4-7-10. Look at they've got a heck of a game going here.
Well, there are 2 holes this game, a 10-pin in frame number 3 and a 7-10 from Bock on this lane on his last shot. So let's see if we can get a break here.
Had another couple of very famous or future famous bowlers bowling here today that put in a couple of great performances. Our Team USA stalwarts, young ones, Marshall Kent and Daniel McEwen, I believe is how it's pronounced, boyfriend and girlfriend, who will be representing the United States in Siberia.
Ooh, that sounds
at the,
cold.
World Cup this year.
Bring your bombers.
Yes.
Well, actually, Marshall didn't win.
He didn't? Oh, he finished second.
He lost the title match to
John
our all events and singles leader, John Zerbinski. They did both win the year before, however.
That's it. Okay, yeah.
And they had the chance to defend, both of them. So Danielle and John Zerbinski will be headed to the World Cup. And potentially, at this point in time, good segue, by the way, with 2 eagles for Zerbinski, currently on top of the leaderboards in regular singles with 789 and regular all events with 2228. Mr. McNeil gave it a run and a big 4 in the 4th frame and an 8-pin in the very next frame. Did him in, finished with 787. So he's currently sitting second. And what are you going to do with all those watches should you hold on? I mean, you got 4 or 5 by now?
Well, I haven't got, I haven't fit any of them. So I need, because I have a small wrist, so I need to take all the links out. So I actually just went on Amazon and bought a watch kit, so I don't have to pay about $20 per watch at a jeweler to get all the watches fitted. But I figured I at least get them all fit, and now I'm going to put them up on the mantle next to the Eagles, so I'll have all the nice wooden boxes, and it's really great, especially when Dwayne Haugen took over the tournament. He changed the awards around, and the Eagles are really, really nice. And the watches, of course, come in the beautiful like oak wood boxes, and so it's really nice. A lot of great changes that he's instituted, and looking forward to getting the watches home, the hardware home, and putting them up on the mantle with the rest of it.
That was the first time I'd ever seen Marshall Kent bowl.
He's pretty good.
Yeah, and I actually didn't make it over here to bowl. I got to watch him. He was taking a lesson from Mike Jasno over at Lane 81. And I sat in on that with his dad, and Daniel were there. But I did meet him last night for the first time, and Daniel. And it was funny. How'd you guys bowl? Was Jasno? I asked him, and Daniel said, he beat me. but it was like 2,080 for Marshall and 2,040 for Danielle. So that's some of our future young potential Hall of Famers and great talent.
And he rolls the ball so well.
Oh, God, he's got a great game.
His role kind of reminds me of Brian Voss's.
Yeah, I would agree.
And Brian Voss, who, he bowled in the Army, and he was stationed in Germany, and where the lane beds were really bad. A guy told me a story once about he bowled in the center that Brian Voss averaged 210 in, okay, over in Germany, right? And so he said you could stick quarters in between the boards. He said they were so bad and they hooked so much, and I think he like barely averaged 170, and he was pretty well accomplished. But Brian Voss averaged 212. And I think that's growing up there or bowling there and in Alaska, of course, gave him such the wonderful game that he had. So being stationed over there in Germany, I think really helped him before he went pro.
Definitely one of the all-time greats there. I was lucky enough to be in Akron when Brian was inducted into the PBA Hall of Fame. One of the greatest speeches I've ever heard at any Hall of Fame. Cried a bit and very emotional, and boy, was such a fantastic champion. He's got a lot of my money in his pocket. He was Bowler of the Year my second year on tour, and definitely, a stylist. Kind of like today, the stylists, 2 guys we're just talking about there, John Zerbinski and Marshall Kent. Is there anybody that throws the ball better than John Zerbinski? I mean, the game, watching him on the PBA League shows this year, hadn't really seen him bowl too much except on your live streams from Team USA trials, and boy, he throws it fantastic. Might be a double eagle winner this year.
He might, and I mean that's a product of which he went to Wichita,
Yep.
right? Yeah, I
Yep.
mean product of the program I'm going to. Hopefully, I can throw it as good as he throws it, because I think he throws it absolutely phenomenal.
I got a question here. What did you throw in? You threw the King Cobra in minors, I know.
Yes.
What did you throw in team? I got a question here.
I had 7 balls and I threw them all.
Yeah. You threw. What did you throw in team? 2 shots every frame. That's the stock answer when you. That's what I've said many a time. 2 shots every frame.
Well, just a quick recap now. BuddiesProShop.com started the night with 1134, and they're still striking it up. A few of them.
Boy, they got
a 6-bagger for their 3rd bowler, and we're going to have to draw straws to see who gets to say his last name when he gets to the next one. But a lot of strikes on the board. 1134, game number 1. So we'll keep an eye on them. Their companion team looks like 123bowl.com, 1077.
They got a lot of strikes too. Your coworker Lucas Wiseman is kind of taking it easy tonight, it looks like, but he's still reporting. I got a tweet here for him on the lingerie bowling at Harrah's Reno, and he's got quite a picture here.
Is it him in lingerie?
No, oh God, that would be scary. It's legit with a Kegel lane machine and everything. Oh, that's too good. Good job, Lucas.
Well, way to plug the lane maintenance provider for USBC Championship events at Kegel.
The great Lou Trunk is over there keeping that lane in shape. So Lou's keeping it on the level over there. There may be lingerie involved, but Lou stepped up, volunteered for the hard work that has to be done over there, and is keeping it on the level.
Boy, there are a lot of X's on that board. The companion team for Buddy's Pro Shop has one of the weirdest scoreboards I've ever seen. They're through 7 frames, and they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 opens. They have 4 spares, and the rest are strikes.
It's a lot of X's.
That's a lot of. They're playing tic-tac-toe there with X's and O's, except they're dashes here on the stadium scoring system. And these guys in front of us here, again, a few more dashes than you'd like to see, but wow, what a lot of strikes. So
Once
we never
again,
get to hear from you, Matt. I never hear you predict. What do you think? I mean, team event, we know it's going to be 35, 38, or right around that. But the minors, I've already said I'm shocked there hasn't been an 800 in singles, and I think they'll be a little higher of 1,400. What do you think? You've seen more bowling here than anybody.
Well, the last time I tried to make a prediction was 2009, and there were some huge numbers that year, and I thought for sure, and I had enough experience to know that those numbers weren't getting matched, and I was wrong. Ron Vogts shot 857 in singles.
That's right.
It was tied for the 2nd highest series in tournament history, and it doesn't happen that often. Once every 5 or 6 years, whatever. And I really didn't think that number was getting beat, and then Bill Gergen shoots 862. So Vogts' 23-21 held on to win as of course, all events record at the time. Again, I said, wow, that number's not getting beat for a while. 1 year later, McNeil beats that by 5 sticks. So at this point, and we've watched a lot of doubles so far, and we talk about the Game 3 is kind of the wild card now. There's something that happens in the transition towards the end of Game 2, going into Game 3, where we've seen very talented players, familiar names, Jason Hurd and Tom Milton, Rick Steele-Smith and Paul Fleming. We saw Gottschall and Adam Barta, all with 960 plus after 2 games. The lead right now, 1403. There's a tie for the lead. So plus 203, and we've seen those guys turn 160, 170. Hurd and Milton were 985.
Wow.
And it doesn't seem like that much. We need 40 over, and a 220 a guy at this point. We've already been 160 over. How can this not happen? And there's just something going on with the transition, and they're not keeping up with the moves. And Game 3, a bit of a disappointment. And none of those guys, came up with it. and it's interesting. So we've been talking about, the team that is able to figure that out. What's the move? And maybe it means talking to those guys to see, what did you encounter? What happened there? And it might be a bigger move than you'd expect. And you just have to be brave. You have to take a risk. And it's either going to pay off big or you're going to fall flat on your face. And whoever figures out that move at the right time, because we saw Zerbinski and Jesse Buss have the same situation. They both shot 770, 780 in team event. They came out for doubles, and Zerbinski shoots 660, and Jesse shoots 560. And then they both come out 740, 789 in singles. So something happened there. They got caught up in it, in the end of doubles there, and things opened up nicely as they hoped, and they had big single sets. So, if somebody right-handed can tell me what's happening there, then maybe we can come up with something. But certainly, we know that a low 1400 probably isn't going to get it done. Somebody's going to pop a big score. Last year it was 1489. You'd expect it should be, somewhere in the mid 1400s. I'll say 1460 range. We were here in 2007. It took 1500 plus out of nowhere. Two guys we'd never heard of, Jonathan Mazer and Jeffrey Butler. Butler actually bowled today.
Yeah.
But those guys shot, 1,500 plus in the middle of the night, and they got it done. So you never know when you're going to see a big number. 1403, I don't think that's going to win. So I'm going to say somewhere the mid-14s.
Yeah, that's what I think. I wrote 1440 or 50.
And I really think we're going to see an 800 in singles because the way the lanes are setting up, these guys are having big single sets. But as Matt saw the other night, it was a big 4 in the middle of game 3. For Zerbinski, it was a Greek church after the front 5 in game 3. So if that ends up being just an ace pair, then we're in business. So
yeah, then you got your 800.
It's a matter of just keeping the ball in the pocket, not giving away pins, and there you have it. But certainly, I don't think we're going to see a sub 800 in singles event. But still, so many great bowlers to come through. It's only the first couple of days of May, and we're here till July 7th.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I wrote this already, but watch out for Mike Shady and then, of course, McDowell in our group. If we do it right and create what we've done in practice, this might be Shades' year. And Mark and Shady they finished second when Brenda and Steven shot. What did they shoot that? The record, right?
1566.
Yeah, and Mark and Shades finished second with like 1470, I believe it was, or something like that. And they had led for weeks and weeks and weeks since early April to mid-June. And I think they finished maybe third or so in doubles in I believe it was Albuquerque. So they've had a couple kicks at it. Boy, we got red up on the board, Matt.
We do. Matt, God, that name's hard.
That's the one I tried. Deuyre.
Maybe somebody in the chat room can help us out on that pronunciation.
I'm a print journalist, so I just need to spell it right, is what I always say. I just saw a guy looking over there to watch that on the 1, 2, 4, 6, 10, just traced it for a 5 out. And he turned around with a priceless look on his face, and his teammates all razzing him.
Well, we did see a 295 on that general area on the last squad. Brian LeClaire, former PBA standout, had 295, and if Matt gets this one, perhaps we'll send Mr. McNeil over.
That's what Brian ended up that last game. Oh wow, yeah, he was bashing him.
But certainly, if we're going to be talking about Matt for the next few frames, I would like to say his name right for sure. But let's see, there it is.
He got it. That's 8.
He's got number 8.
Gents, I'm going to head over there and take. Will my wireless work that far?
Well, one way to find out.
All right, here we go.
All right, we'll see you in a minute. And right now, we'll turn our attention back to the locker guys while we can. Dave Langer, 224, a hole in frame number 3, a missed 10-pin. He started the night with 192.
Did you see a shot in the 10th? Just a stone 9. Just a stone 9. Just a great shot. And they have really, now these are a couple guys on that first team, they really get some hand in the ball, but they're in there very deep. I'm impressed with the scores they're shooting, getting around it that much from what I've seen in the last couple days of other people getting around it a lot on the right side. Well,
now as a right-hander, we talked earlier about their strategy, a little bit unique coming in. As far as game number 1, in your opinion, did they give it away based on strategy, or did they just not bowl well?
Well, looking at what they got this game, how can you argue with their strategy? obviously they've done a fine job of making the lanes conducive to shooting a number. I mean, you look at the strikes they got up here, they've got some holes, but you look at the strikes up there, and it's like, wow, that's potential some really huge games. If Dave doesn't solid 9 there, you know, Dan also spared. They had a huge potential in 10th that they're kind of letting slip away here, but I think that you're probably going to find out that in the first game they're probably going to kick themselves for a little nerves, a little bad shot making, maybe a ball choice error or something. But I can't argue a unique strategy that they had, but I sure as heck can't argue with it based on what we're seeing this game. The proof is in the pudding, as they say.
Guys, can you hear me down there?
We got you.
All right, I'm right stationed behind lanes 47 and 48 here at the National Bowling Stadium. And Buddy's Pro Shop going into the 9th frame has 800 up on the board. Only one guy on a string, however. Michael Mullen just had a super washout, went 5-3. So that's his second open of the game, only one double. So that could make things a little interesting here for the Buddy's Pro Shop crew, but of course we're down here to watch Matt. Did we get a pronunciation on that last name, Maddie, from the chat room?
We did, actually. Gary Brown, our collegiate specialist at USBC, he says Diori. He was an intercollegiate singles championships finalist in 2011. So Matt Diori. Gary Brown, thanks for chiming in there, because Mr. Diori now has the front 8 here at the 2013 USBC Open Championships. And we'll have that for you in just a minute. Brian Graham is now up. He is the number 2 bowler. Matt in the 3-hole. So we'll keep an eye on them. Right now, the locker guy, pair of 224s on top for the Langer brothers. And Dave Ullman looking at a big game here as well. So, you know, a lot of things happening here in game 2. So, again, we talked about the strategy early. You know, perhaps some poor shots and a few spare miscues. From some very talented players, but certainly making up for it here in game number 2.
Yeah, you knock off a big 11 and maybe a 12, and you get close to 3,400 or so after that start. They're not going to walk out of here too upset. 6 more games tomorrow.
Well, easy to of course, look at the big picture. Team All Events is a marathon, and this is just the first leg of that race for sure. And 35-38 on top of the team event, a monster number. And not a lot of mistakes can happen.
Nice shot.
If you're planning on getting there, but certainly at that point, once it's out of the way, it's focusing on making good shots, getting as many pins as you can to continue that journey towards Team All Events. Now, Matt Diori up on lane 48, working on the front 8.
He's on lane 47, Matty. He's stepping up, putting his hand in the ball right now. Front 9. He's going for 9th frame. Here we go. The delivery. Oh, that's nice. Oh, is that sweet?
Oh, he's a team dome. I love it.
Get out
the power
the cookie
of the
and
dome.
milk. That is yummy.
Love the guys that are a little follicle challenged.
Yes.
Lenny Borish and I are always going back and forth on that.
Looks like he's throwing a DV8. It's green. It's blue and lime green. I think it's is that the Marauder or something like that?
Somebody in the chat room will fill us in.
Yes, they will. Lime green DV8. So if anybody who knows the Brunswick stuff, DV8 stuff, fill us in on that. But it's rolling about as nice as a gravy train on biscuit wheels. I tell you that much right now.
And those guys, the first 3 guys on that team struck in the 9th, so they're looking to set up for a big finish here. The only opens they have this whole game are Michael Mullen's 2 in the 6th and the 8th.
Sam Macarone just pounded up a double.
Love Sam.
Setting it up.
Well, John Gaines relaxing Friday night. Not happening right now. Big numbers being shot at the Open Championships. Game 2 just about in the books. We'll have that total for you in just a minute. The Locker guys striking it up here in Game 2 as well. Locker guy 1, Langer and Langer, 224, 224.
Tough
Ullman.
10th frame. I mean, look at this. They got spare, and then another spare, and Dave Ullman with the turkey. They have not filled much of this 10th frame with X's, and they're still shooting a solid 1,100. What are we looking at here? 69, 83. I mean, we're looking at above 1150 with a strikeout by Chad Nelson without much in the 10th frame. So they were looking at 1200, and the companion team also looking at a big game. Wham. And it's just what I find really interesting for those who are watching is the diversity in how they're playing the lanes here, which to me is counter to what I would think I would expect, because they've got some guys who are close to 20 at the arrows boomeranging it, at least hooking it quite a bit, maybe not a boomerang, and a couple of the other guys are just going with pistols straight and hard, and to me that just tells you that they've blended these out and broke them down perfectly. And Michael Mullen did strike down there, so they've got 5 strikes working into the 10th with a potential 256, a potential 237, a potential 300, a potential, is that 49 for Sam Macarone, and then 198 Michael Mullen could save. So
well, Riggs, we talked earlier about the lefty situation. Mike Mullen is the lefty on that team with a pair of opens, one being a washout. He's in the anchor spot because he is that good, especially in this building. Even he's made TV in this building on the Master Show back in 2001 or 98. I believe it was
one of those years.
I believe it was 98.
I think it was 98.
And Parker shot 300 and then lost to Mike Albee in the title match. But Mike Mullen certainly very accomplished. But again, at this game at least, the left-hander, the low man on the team.
He had a good first game. I think it was 240 something in the first game. Well, that's a tough 10th for Chad Nelson there. Looking at 269 and went high and left the ugly split. Didn't convert it. Turned the game into 230. Still, with what they'd honestly tell you is a bad 10th frame, 1152. That was definitely a 1200 potential game. So they're 139 over after 2. The companion team finished up with 1138. They're 138 over.
All right, guys. 10th frame starting up here.
And John Gaines, I'm sure, is tortured because he can't watch.
No. Chris Forey.
He's going to depend on us to tell him.
Chris Forey up on the right lane, beginning of the 10th. Oh, that's a little high. Oh, that cost him a lot of pins. Chris went high for a 4-pin. So that'll put him at 236 if he converts here and makes a spare. Oh, 236. 236.
Well, guys, there's 2 ways to watch this right now. Right now we're behind lanes 35 and 36. Watching the locker guys, 2139 and 2138. So right there together here. You can watch that live. Obviously, you're watching that live on Bowl TV. But if you're curious about lanes 47 and 48, the Buddy's Pro Shop guys, you can find that on xbowling.com. I'm looking at it right now on the website, xbowling.com. Go to the tournament options, and it'll allow you to pick the Open Championships, and then you just pick lane 48. You can pull that right up and see frame by frame, and you can even see what they leave on each shot. You can also find that on your mobile device, your iPhone or Android device. Just a free app. Just download that, the X Bowling Tournament Edition.
Got it right here.
You can see the score-by-score live scoring from the Open and Women's Championships, all kinds of other cool statistics and some games. You can see how other people did previously here at the Open Championships, and you can sign up for the 90-frame X game and take your shot at $50,000 if you strike in the right frame. So a lot going on that website. Very helpful as we're able to watch different things right now. I'm also watching the Women's Championships unfold as well. So a lot in Reno going on certainly tonight, this week. Convention, USBC Convention, Hall of Fame coming to a close. So if you're a bowler, this certainly is the place to be right now.
Oh yeah, we got it's a hot time in the old town tonight, as they'd say.
Let's see here.
All right, and Chris Forey finishes up with a 10-pin, so his total will be 235. We come down to Brian Graham, double working. Possible 237.
Our team leaders went 12:06, 11:67, 11:65 for 35-38. So Buddy'sProShop.com, 11:34 in game number 1. So 2 huge games still necessary. 3,500 is a bunch. However, we have seen 3 so far this year. And who knows? These guys certainly capable. Brian Graham
Got his.
in the first shot in the 10th. So Matt McNeil on the scene. So we'll have all the info from 47 to 48, and we're down here on 35 and 36. How about that technology?
And there is another lefty on the pair. Mike Mullen is not alone. We have Dave Kipperman, who's trying to grind out a 2-0 here. 2 holes, a triple, and trying to end it with a 4-bagger to get to 208. So a couple left-handers. I'm sure Dave and Michael have a strategy going on the left side. But right now we're watching.
Brian Graham got the first one. About to throw a second one here, looking for a double. Could get to 237 potential.
A runaway Brook.
Oh my goodness! I thought I was going to say.
Yeah, that was a runaway Brooklyn for Brian Graham.
Oh wow!
It was a nice runaway though. He blew the 5 right into the 10. That's a nice runaway in my mind.
He's a veteran. That might have been a bad rack. But even 15 lanes away or 13 lanes away, I could see that one. And good little. In fact, it was a good view from my angle of the pins just shooting. It looked like what you could do to a rack, just smashing it. It's like Dan Bock is. I don't know if that is a wrecker, older grip wrecker, or maybe it's a lucid, very shiny. Hooking that ball a lot. I think that's a shiny lucid. So we're going to have Matt Dueer looking for the 300 here. Graham got his
Diori.
There we go. Diori.
He's wiping, just took the towel, wiped the excess oil off the ball. He's drying his hand right now. Going for the front 10, lane 48 here at the National Bowling Stadium. And everybody giving him courtesy. He has 2 lanes on each side. Everybody's giving him courtesy. So we'll watch the delivery. And it looks pretty good. It's got to hurry. Oh, and a light swisher. Matt Diori, front 10. He gets out the shake and bake. Get out the walleye fillets, gentlemen. That was a very nice shot off of his hand.
Matt, he looks like he's got some pretty high rev rate from my angle over here. How deep is he crossing at the arrows?
He is about 15 at the arrows, 16. He's getting it to about 9-10 down lane, right around the second indicator down lane. And that was a little right of it. That got to about 8 down lane, but he rolled it real nice. So came back for the mixer. Now the front 11 he's going for here. Once again, everybody giving him the lane courtesy.
He looks like another diminutive guy in the height category.
All right, here's the delivery. Oh, he pulled it. He pulled it. Oh, and through the nose. Through the nose, and he leaves a 3-pin. Everybody giving him a round of applause. It'll be 289 with a conversion.
Boy, if Macaron and Mullen can get off the sheet here, these guys are going to be. They're not even going to need 1,200 the last game, I don't think.
No, I think, well, they got 1038 right now, barring the conversion. And then Macaron on a double, Mullen on a single. So Mullen shoot 198. Macaron can get to.
Yeah, they're going to be right around 1,200.
Yeah, man, they got 1208 out there this game with the 1134 start.
Yep. So they would need right at 1190 something.
Certainly a tall task for sure.
But certainly doable.
That's nothing. The third game here.
Well, as somebody said, I don't know, 2 years ago, as long as it's mathematically possible, you go out there and get it. If you can do it on paper, you can do it on the scoreboard. Is that right?
That's an old Wriggle saying right there.
Well,
you can do it on paper. You can do it on the scoreboard, is one I've said forever.
Yes, and I remember Bo said on the old Saturday afternoon telecast, I remember this one was, If you can do it with a scoring pencil, you can do it with a bowling ball. And Sam Macarone gets the first one, comes in a little light, shreds him up. Big shot there. This one even bigger. This will be another 12 points here.
Well, I gotta say, I'm ecstatic beyond belief that I made this trip out in the Hall of Fame ceremonies, came out in Reno with the tournament this year. Had so much fun the last couple of days getting to watch you bowl, Matt, and your minors, and so many great players the last couple of days. I almost don't want to go home, especially since I got to turn around and come right back.
Yes, and Sam just got the second one. It was a little left, but it held pocket. All 10 in the pit.
Yowza. Well, I think the whole, and you watch Michael Mullen's 10th frame and you give us a little analysis on his ball reaction, because the question is, in his holes in the 6th and 8th frame, was that, okay, my shot's not that good, or did I just make a couple errors? Maybe one of them was a pocket 7-10, who knows? We didn't see the first one. I know the one you said was the washout, but if he's going to shoot a decent last game, then definitely Lodge Lanes would certainly be in peril tonight.
Yes, I would agree. Now the shot I did watch Michael open on this right lane was a super washout, and it looked like he just didn't throw it good. So we'll see what happens. He's got it disturbed in his hands, and it looks like he's setting up. He's got about his right foot on about 12, 13 board. Looks like he's just trying to go square up 6, 7, 8. Here's the delivery right up 6, 7, 8. Oh, and it comes up light. He almost bucketed. He half bucketed. So it'll be, with the conversion, that's only 178. And this, trust me guys, this spare on this condition is no gimme. I think there's more ways to chop it than there is make it. So he's got his work cut out for him.
And if I'm looking right, he struck all but one shot on the other lane and he had 4 strikes and a spare on the other lane. So maybe
oh no,
the whole key.
Oh, he made it.
Just got it going away, didn't he?
Yeah, he got it. He got it going away. I thought he might have missed it.
So who knows? The tale of whether they can beat Lodge Lanes tonight could be Michael Mullen on lane 48.
Well, we talked about that earlier. Again, it's it's that left-hander thing. Perhaps this is not the year to lean on the lefty.
And if you're going to have a
no.
lefty on your team.
Oh, he threw it in the ditch.
Oh, no.
He threw it in the ditch.
Wow.
So it'll be a 168 for Mullen, 1176, and
wow.
And that 10 pins, Riggs, that could really be costly.
Wow. And if you were going to name 10 great non-PBA touring lefties, he'd be on that list too, without a doubt. You'd probably be at the top of it, but he'd certainly be among those. And didn't he have like 240 the first game, didn't he? My phone's kind of died, so I can't look it up. Matt can look it up here for us. But if I'm remembering, I thought he had 249 the first game. So they're going to need, let me see, 1134, 1176. They're 310.
1228 is the number to tie.
That's certainly doable. Yeah, and you definitely got to think the guys with the hot hands right now are Matt and Chris Forey. So I think they really need to get the pace started here, and we'll see if they can start off to a good beat.
And Sam Macarone being on that team brings up one. I asked a question that Matt Canizero, Lucas Wiseman, Jason Overstreet, the USBC crack PR staff could not answer. Who's the oldest person to win an Eagle?
Oh.
And simply because the records just aren't there to, you'd have to spend about 1,000 man hours to find that one, because you'd have to probably comb through all the Eagle winners, look up their birth dates, and you'd have to do it all by hand. But I remember asking Matt that, and I don't think that record was kept. He looked it up, and he basically gave me the answer I just said, which is that it would
Or
be
you can
what?
turn to page 58 in the
Wait a
tournament
minute, you
yearbook.
told me that didn't exist.
The oldest champion.
Well, that doesn't count.
The
Booster team.
Oldest champion, Glenn Smith. I believe the question was probably more specific
Yes.
as far as the oldest regular division champion. So that.
Nothing against our booster team folks, but definitely regular division.
Well, remember now, at the inception of the booster division, it simply was based on where you lived. Originally,
oh, really? That's right.
It was
the locals.
Correct. You had to live within a certain amount of miles of the actual tournament, and then you came out there in a special division. That was the booster division, which later became average-based, and then, of course, in 1999 expanded to the classified division.
That's right. That's right. Good recovery there on the trivia. I'd forgotten about that. You know, we talked about the format before, and I don't want to forget to mention this. I had a chance to talk to both Brian Lewis and Dwayne Hagan, the two guys in charge of the top level in charge of the tournament here, about the format this year for minors. And for those who haven't bowled and those who have bowled know this already, the most exciting thing I think for USBC staff is the time frame with the new format. Oh, I'm sorry. I've got to move here. My chair is in the way. Anyway, I'm sorry. Let's get going again on that thought. Those guys said, Brian and Dwayne, when I chatted with them, that squads are running so on time this year that that's the biggest benefit of the six-man, the new squad format, the new squad times. And one of the things they gain is not flipping between doubles and singles. You don't have one pair waiting for another pair. You don't have to move your equipment. You don't have to have discussion with the guys that you're flipping with. Hey, how am I going to play the lanes in that? I watched Matt the other night. Their doubles was done. Their first single shot was within 30 seconds. And you add up that sort of time throughout a whole course of a day in a tournament, and they're running on time. And I actually had a chance to chat with the head of our Wisconsin State Bowling Association about doing that. We have 2,100 teams, biggest state tournament in the country in Wisconsin, and staying on time is just a horrible thing for them all the time. And I said, you guys got to switch to this. We already have 6 in a pair. Man, if you can shave a couple minutes off every squad, why not? Never fun to not be on time.
Our locker guys here on 35 and 36 right in front of us, getting back on track here after a rough start here in game number 3. The two teams just 1 pin apart after 2 games, 21-39 and 21-38. And again, rough start for our team on top here, and but now 7 strikes in a row. So things falling into place. Dave Ullman up on the right lane, looking for a double and a team 8-bagger.
Oh, week 10.
And the start down there for Buddy's Pro Shop, 4 strikes and a spare by Brian Graham. So that means Michael Mullen struck on 48. How's that mental toughness?
Especially after the ditch.
Open, spare gutter in your last 3 frames on 48, and you start the next game with a strike. It looked to me like he was chuckling when he came off after that gutter.
Yeah.
Well, you know what that tells me? There's a guy that doesn't have any problem having the belief in himself. It wouldn't surprise me in the least for him to come back and pop 240 or 50 here this game. And yes, John Gaines, I know you don't want to hear that.
Well, 12-29, the number those guys need to take the lead. Certainly that's still out there, and no matter what, a sizable set here and a good head start towards team all events. So tomorrow, you're going to have some excitement as well. Watching all these guys in doubles and singles, and no doubt even more talented teams coming our way. So always an adventure here at the 2013 USBC Open Championships. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Almost 400 people watching right now.
I wish I could stick around tomorrow because that's definitely going to be a possibility, but I got a very early flight. And I actually have to bowl a tournament with my league champion, or Madison League Champions team at the three busing centers in Madison. I got to get off the plane and go right to Boulevard Lanes in Madison and bowl with my Chris Pounders, one of the guys that bowled real well early in the tournaments on our team there. Have some fun tomorrow night. And then start prepping the next day. I got some ball work to do on Sunday and get ready. I got to ship, actually when I get home I do that, I got to ship my balls next week.
All right, guys. So Brian Graham just tripped a 4, strike in the second.
What did Chris Forey leave on his? Did you see?
I believe it was a 10-pin.
Spared it.
And we have a lot of guys watching down here. We got a lot of big names. We got Brian Zizig, Anthony Pepe.
They're all bowling minors at 10:30 tonight.
Marshall Kent. Boy, we got quite the following down here. A lot of big names. So now Matt is going to step up in the second frame, strike working. We'll see what happens.
Should those guys make a run at history, we're going to miss it. We've got our cameras, everything set up down here for the live stream.
You need one that's mobile that you could easily pick up and run down there. But it looks like everything's wired here, so it pretty much would be an impossible task.
Maybe we could get like a helmet cam.
We'll put it on your head.
There you go. It'll look great with these funky headphones I'm wearing. I don't look weird enough. But, yeah, we'll get the USBC Open Championships helmet cam.
That would be pretty cool.
And Matt flushes another one. Now, he just made a big move. He's now about 20 at the arrows, getting it to about 12, just kind of playing a little fall backer, just letting it roll up real nice in front of the pocket. So an early double for Matt. And I believe Sam Macarone is throwing an oath, Columbia oath. We'll see if he's gotten deeper yet, too. All right, Sam still has the oath. It looks like he has moved left from the second game. Oh, a good deal left and a nice crumbler. He crumbles down the bucket for an early double. And it looks like he's right on top of Matt. So it looks like these guys have really gotten deep. Does anybody have any scuba gear? If I'm going to follow these guys, I might need it. They're getting deep.
Oh, come on now. That's not deep.
We saw Brian Walchuk get so deep here, he got a nosebleed couple weeks ago.
I saw that tweet you tweeted out, picture you tweeted out. The year I won the all events, in the last 2 games of singles, this is when I had a little more wrist than I have now. I was a lot younger. I was inside almost to 30, right between 25 and 30, and throwing a black Columbia Rage. Shiny as heck. And the key shot I had that one, about the 7th or 8th frame of the last game of singles, I left a solid nickel, and the head pin came off the wall and smashed it out. And that was throwing it hard. That was back in the days when they hooked a lot at this tournament when you bowled the last minor squad.
The old ABC fallback.
Yep, you knew you were going to play that just pretty much every year, bowling 440 minor event squad.
All right, Chris Forey up in the third, right lane. Still throwing the disturb. It doesn't look like he's moved much left. He's still kind of playing them the same way he did in the second game. Oh, no. Oh, it hooked early, but it just set up. High flush.
Sorry.
Well, yeah, the Lodge Lanes guys I know John's out there listening, watching. I don't know how many of the rest of the guys are, but boy, an excruciating few minutes here.
This I have a feeling, I mean, especially if these guys can carry it into the 5th or 6th frame with some strings. Watch out. Here's Brian Graham. Strike working. And that's gotta carry. Oh, and what a nice shot. High flush. That ball really rolled nice through the deck. That's looking like a good ball reaction. You gotta like his chances of throwing up a big number here.
I thought Brian Graham, didn't he win the singles one year in this tournament? Boy, or came very close. Thought he had like a 820 something one year.
Well, he does not have a champion.
There's no eagle up there
No.
next to it.
Riggs, I was talking to Matt about maybe in El Paso having a side tournament, and you call it the Classic, the 2-game Classic, and we have guys hanging numbers up above the lanes, and old masking units, old ball returns, the works, and maybe limit it to 2 balls and make it on a challenging pattern, and maybe 30 or 40. Oh no, Matt just went through the face for a 4-6.
Ooh, that's
and
a killer.
That ball jumped pretty hard, and that hit the same hook. That ball hit the same hook spot that Forey's hit, but Forey's just kind of rolled out into the pocket, whereas Matt's continued. So that could give us a little trouble here.
Matt, your boy Sam Lantos down here hanging out a little bit. Now he's headed your way.
Uh-oh, I better watch out.
And he's carrying something very interesting with him, which he was probably going to put in front of you if he comes down by you. It's a little bottle with something in it.
I just saw that, Riggs, and that is
I didn't want. He put that in my lap, and I said, I don't want any part of that. Sam's a guy. I believe he has 1 or 2 eagles, and I still think he's definite Hall of Fame potential for the consistency and the many near misses. Along with that, a kind of a Lenny Borish type through the years, high average, and I think he's definitely USBC category Hall of Famer in the future one of these years. You guys got to get him about 1 more eagle, I believe. Help get him.
Sam Macarone, yes, agreed. I know we were talking about that last night at the banquet, Riggs, and Sam Macarone just hung a 3rd strike up on the board, so he's perfect through 3.
Now Mullen's coming up on 48 here, right?
Yep, I'm going to watch what he does.
Let's hear how he moved there. He struck it in the first.
Right.
I'd like to hear.
He's 2 right with his feet off that shot in the 10th, and a ball switch. Oh, and what a gem of a shot, guys. He rolled that one very, very nice. It looked like he made a ball switch to something a little smoother down the lane. The disturbed, I think, was jump. It looks like an check. IQ Tour solid for Mullen. IQ Tour solid.
And Matt Canizero got a little info there. What I'm remembering of Brian Graham, he won the ACUI, the college singles in 1994 championship. So see, my old aging brain did have a memory there of him winning a singles national title. It just wasn't an eagle at the USBCs.
So Buddy's Pro Shop through 3 frames, 176 with 2 triples and a double working. Matt on an open and Chris Forey on a single. So a lot of work to go here, but certainly with the 2 guys on the bottom, they can hang some pretty big numbers up here. And the stands are starting to fill up behind me, guys. There is not an empty seat for at least 3 pairs behind 47 and 48 here. So people are starting to crowd around. I think they know what's going on.
Well, potential history in the making for sure. And to me, having been down this road once or twice or more of winning or coming close in team event, having that momentum and bowling good, every time we've gone through that, it's always been like a wave that just continues. I can't hardly remember a year where we were bowling great and it went, downhill at the end. We've had some horrible starts that some of which have been seen on here on the webcast. But once we get it going and work together to break them down, we just usually can put it up, and once we get going, it just continues. And the whole momentum thing, and to me, it looks like the way these guys are going, they have that momentum working too. And the one question mark you had was Mullen, and he's got a turkey to start this game.
And we're going to see what they do here in the fourth. Chris Forey just stepping up here on lane 47. And we're going to see what happens here.
I want to come down and watch, but then we only have one mic. Got a halfway decent side angle. I just can't see the 4-7 pins.
Oh, that's got to hurry. Hurry. And a weak 10 for Chris Forey. And he looks like he just got it a little wide and kind of chili dipped it at the bottom. Didn't really get it into a good roll. So I think the nerves are becoming very apparent here, Riggs.
Well, those are 5 guys as good as they might be, and obviously Sam Macron, 2 PBA Tour titles. But no Eagles up there, and I know the desire to win that. Boy, when you don't have one and you want it, boy, it burns at you, and you know you're good enough to get it. Heck, I had one, and trying to get one with my teammates made it harder on me than winning one myself originally. Because the first one I won, I was too young to have a clue of how big a deal it was. But boy, until we won that team all events in 2005, the pressure and the anxiety was so huge. But once you get it, it makes it a lot easier. So I can relate to what these guys are going through probably here. And they know what the score is.
Yeah, they're all very accomplished, and just like what I went through the other night, as you try to close in on it, it's a roller coaster of emotions. Graham, another high flush strike in the fourth, so that'll put him spare triple, bringing up Matt.
And the thing that you have here at the National Bowling Stadium is you can't avoid the scoreboard.
No.
Now you can avoid adding the scores up, which, Gail Myers is a guy that always likes to know exactly what you need to the pin and how you're doing in brackets. He's a nut that way. I, like when we bowled in 2011, my thing was, all right, I don't want to know a single thing about score. I don't want to know a single thing about what we need. I'm just focusing as much as I can on the process and making the best shots I can, and we'll add them up when we're done. I don't want to, if you guys want to talk about it, that's fine. Just do it out of my earshot, please. But
here's Matt's delivery.
You're going to see the scores here.
And a light shaker. So Matt back on track. Chris is actually doing a little, he's removing a piece of tape, it looks like, right in front of me here. He's taking a piece of tape out of that ball. Just wants to make sure everything is perfect. Correction, he added a piece of tape. Sorry.
Couple of big shots here, because if you're looking at Sam and Michael getting strikes here, then you got 2 4-baggers and a turkey working while the other 2 guys are about even. And when you're looking at shooting 12, needing 1,200, you got to have at least probably 2 guys shooting big games, and 3 really helps.
Here's Sam in the fourth. It's got to sit, and it does. Very nice. Sam thought it was going to be high off his hand, and it sat there really nice.
How deep is he crossing the arrows? He was never a big power player.
Yeah, no, he's around 18.
So they're pretty much on top of each other then, aren't they?
Yes, they are, Riggs.
Interesting.
And,
well, see, then that tells you, to me, that tells me that even though we didn't see them, they broke them down as perfect as you can be. If straighter guys and tweeners and hand guys are all pretty much on top of each other at this point in a 3-game set, then that tells you that they've made the lanes just exactly the way you got to make them.
And Mullen just went high for a 6-pin. And it looked like he just hopped up on it a little bit at the line. Wasn't as smooth as the shot on 48. So Trust me, I know it. It feels like you have one foot in the pressure cooker and the other in the frying pan, and your stomach feels like about to explode.
That's what you live for, though. I mean, that's why that feeling, the hair standing up on your arms, and the gut churning, and just the whole total adrenaline rush. That's what I always tell people when they ask about it. I said that's why you practice for hours a day when you're a little kid, and grind, and so you get to the moments where your whole body is just absolutely zizzing, to use a term my girlfriend likes.
And Chris Forey got it in, but it sat. So a nice strike for Chris. It looks like that piece of tape may have helped. He rolled it pretty good. So he's strike up in the 5th, bringing up Brian Graham. Strike 3-bagger working. And if you're looking at getting to 1190, boy, we really got to see Brian get on the strike train here. Sorry, guys, my mic is flashing at me, so I might be in and out a little bit.
Well, boom.
Brian with a very nice shot. It looks like he's locked in. Ball reaction's very nice, and Brian looks really cool. He's the heart rate, from what I can see, he's not breathing very hard. He's staying relaxed, staying smooth out there. So I think we can expect to see something big out of him.
I got a real feeling here too, depending what these guys do, but I think this next minor event squad, with the quality of players that are bowling here tonight, Klemkin group, the Zizig group, Anthony Pepe, I mean, you could have some multiple leads changing hands potentially, and might have to stick around and watch a little of this minors. It's either that or dice. Let's see.
Well, I do feel a little bad for the Locker guys. However, we're here to watch them, and they're bowling well, but certainly the possibility of history a few pairs away. So it's going to take some of the focus here. Those guys still striking. They need 12-29.
Oh no, Matt. That's actually going to be a 2-8.
Oof.
And Matt came up high or light on that lane that he just went high on, so he might be fighting ball reaction on that lane.
Yeah, this is a year where I bet you Matt Canizero can probably tell us if there's ever been a year where a 3,400 was kind of ho-hum. For sure a 3,300 is ho-hum, and a 3,200 is almost like disappointing if you're a top-level team. Quite different than last year.
I mean, again, that's part of the mystery of the Open Championships. Every year is a new lane condition. And a new scoring pace. So last year, very challenging all across the board. And this year, team event scores a little bit higher. So, that's what you get. But then the doubles and singles pattern kind of brings that back down to earth a little bit. So a little bit of a mixture and all part of the adventure here.
It's all about the winning and the losing. And trust me, if you lose with 32.50 and the winning score is 32.60, that's the exact same feeling as losing with 35-10 and the winning score is 35-20.
All right, Sam Macarone up here in the 5th. That's a little high. Oh no, he goes through the face.
Did he break up the 4-7 on the one side? I can't see.
He's got a 4-10 split.
Ooh, a 4-10. I can't see the 4 and 7 pins from here. I see the 10 pin. Well, there's a hole on a 4-bagger. That's definitely knocks the potential down.
No, and the only guy who has anything working now is Brian Graham with a 290 possible, but Sam Macarone, if he doesn't convert here, obviously he's going to be, max score for him would be 260. And we'd still need something out of the other guys, even if these guys take it off the sheet. So a lot of scoring needs to take place here in the next 4 frames to set up the all-important 10th.
Oh, Craig Kisrow just posted on my Facebook page here 2 minutes ago. per the ages available in the 1995 Bowler's Encyclopedia, which is the printed thing USBC used to run. I've got a couple of those at home. I never found that. I must have missed it when I looked. Sarge Easter, the very famous Sarge Easter, the oldest champion at age 67, 1950 team event.
Wow.
Thank you, Craig.
Very good facts.
That's,
And
I'm 99% sure Sarge is in the Hall of Fame. If not, he's one of the more famous bowlers of all time. Definitely a name that any bowling historian or bowling nerd would know.
thank you, Riggs.
Yes.
Mullen just weak 7'd on the right lane and made his spare.
Well, they're going to need a
They need
pretty
a run.
hefty finish here.
I think you never want to count anybody out. Gaines might be breathing a little easier, though. It might not feel like he has an elephant on his chest.
Yeah, it'd be one of those where they'd shoot only, well, yeah, we only had 3480 or something like that, you know.
Well, they got about 100 pins to play with at this point. Certainly a long way to go here in game number 3.
We just had one of our new electees to the United States Bowling Congress Board of Directors, Anthony Colangelo out of New Jersey, walk by us here. Great guy who found me through Facebook and always peppers me with various thoughts. He's a New Jersey Association guy.
Yes, Chris Forey just doubled in the 6th. Yeah. And Anthony was actually the guy who told me the story about Brian Voss, Riggs.
Haha. Interesting.
So Anthony served, he actually got to Munich, Germany, I believe, right after, or not Munich, I should say. I think he was stationed in a different part of Germany, but he got there supposedly a year before, or a year after Brian Voss left for the tour. And another strike by Brian Graham.
Well, you know what they need to do here? That they need to go like down the board about 2 times in a row and have like a 10 bagger with, you know, a couple of big strings going, and then that just kind of loosen them up a little bit. Just even if they can just put one down here, the last 3 guys go down, just build that momentum so it can just kind of feed on itself.
Yeah, and I think your big key is going to be Matt here. It really looks like his ball reaction on 48 isn't very good, so it's going to be interesting to see what he does next time he's on the right lane. Of course, up on the left lane right now. And he's definitely waiting. He's trying to get about 2 lanes on each side. He's taking his time.
And this is the hardest thing in the world, too, in his position, is making a ball change with only a couple shots left on. You know, if you think that's the right choice, it's not like you have 5 or 6 shots left on a lane.
And he just flushed one really, really nice. Ball rolled great through the hole, so I think 47's pretty nice for him, and he does get to finish on that lane. So
he's got 2 shots left on 48. If you were sitting there thinking, all right, do I make another move? Do I make a ball change on that? What, with 2 shots left on it, what would you do? If you thought the ball change was your better option, would you make the change, or would you try and just make it strike with the other ball?
Oh, Sam just soft 10'd. You know, I think in that case, you know, you're kind of committed at this point. I mean, unless you know your equipment extremely, extremely well, I think you're just kind of committed, and you have to just, as Nelson would say, throw a Sunday ball.
Yep.
And I really think Matt's kind of in that position. He's committed with that ball. So in that case, I'd say I'd move the eyes a little left, maybe a board or 2 down lane, and I'd try to give it the high, hard one. I think I'd take away, cover less boards, and just try to roll it up there and give it a chance. At least you give it a chance. If it doesn't strike, well, okay, but at least the ball has a chance to strike.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that. If you had maybe 4 shots left on the lane, you figure the first one gives you your knowledge and hopefully you spare or get a lucky strike, and then you make the adjustment, you're going to make the next 3 shots be strikes. But we only have 2 left then you're in this 50-50 situation. I just try to make it strike with what I had in my hand, especially if it's working on the other lane.
Yeah. So Macaron makes a spare, Mullen up. Now in the 6th. Oh no, he goes light, just breaks down the 3-7, but just is left with a 3-pin. So Mullen, after a good start, it looks like either he's not throwing it as good, or his ball reaction might be fading a little bit too. So we'll see what happens here as we close out the 6th, but not looking good with Macaron and Mullen not striking.
And we have some kind of high five without high-fiving situation going on here. We've got some kind.
That's the 5-pin on 37.
Oh, okay. I was looking at what everybody was doing. I didn't see that they left the 5. Okay, I got it now. My bad. It's like 25 people with their hands up in the air with all 5 fingers or fingers and thumb extended.
All right, guys, here we go. 7th frame action coming at you. Chris Forey double working.
Well, this frame, they got to have the top 3 guys.
Oh, without a doubt.
Mandatory.
Mandatory. And I think it's mandatory, Riggs, for Sam and Mullen to post one up, too, because you figure they need at least a triple going into the 10th.
Yep.
All right, Chris Forey up on the approach. I'm just getting nervous watching him. That's got to sit. Oh no, it went right through the face. 4-7-10 for Chris Forey on 48.
Well, I think John Gaines and the boys down in Florida can probably relax a little bit.
Yeah, it just doesn't look like. Matty, you're the good mathematician. Is it still out there for these guys?
Oh yeah.
It's certainly out there. 1229 is the number, but certainly can't have any mistakes at this point.
They're probably pretty close to all having a sheet. When you look at
Oh, he gave it a run. He almost made that spare.
Ooh. If you give Graham 2, I mean, you can almost figure this out. What are you looking at? 23 for Forey, or Graham can get 90. Yeah, I think it's probably still possible, but it's almost
1283, the number at this point. So they pretty
You're
much
better
gave
at
him
that
all.
than me.
All right, so Brian Graham literally with the team on his shoulders. This is a must, Riggs, in my mind.
Oh yeah, because this takes 20-some pins if he doesn't strike here. You got to have your one. Got to have
Looks
him.
pretty good. Oh yes, a little shaker, a light shaker. It looks like he didn't roll it as good, but he still kept it on line, and the 7-pin, the last to go.
Oh, this is making me itchy. I can't believe I got to wait 2 more weeks. And I got to fly home from Reno tomorrow and then turn around and fly back in about 10 days.
Well, the locker guys over here quietly getting it done. They're in the 9th frame. We'll have some final scores for you in just a few minutes, and I'm sure they understand what's happening here, and they'd certainly want the attention on them if it was roles reversed here. And then as soon as they're done, we can try to turn the camera at least to the scoreboard and see how things finish up down on 47 and 48.
Mullen just made a beautiful shot on 48, high flush.
You mean DeWeer? We got Macaron up now. Well, you get Macaron and Mullen strike here, and then basically they got to come up and punch 5 down in the 8th and 5 down in the 9th, and then you got a potential in the 10th.
Oh no, Macaron just ripped a 7.
Oh, see, I I sit and look at that from my angle. It looks like a strike because I cannot see the 4 and 7 pin on that pair from over here.
Yeah, he blew the 5 actually behind the 7. It was a really good shot. Riggs, if can, what did seeing the locker guys kind of finish up here? What do you think about that strategy they employed?
Well, it's not the strategy we would ever employ. But you know, when you got a group of guys that have some guys with far more hand than other guys have, I mean, I don't know. You're asking 5 of them to sacrifice themselves, basically. I think it's not as much a sacrifice on this pattern because it's a little bit softer than what we usually see. But you know, I mean, if it was my group, I would have told the guys with hand, whatever you got to do, you got to get out and play 8, 9, 10 with us to start. There'll come a time when you can move in and get on it, but you know, I'm a guy that I'm not one that wants to play straight up 5 when there's hang to the right and a hook to the left like there was last year, but I know that's why I got to kind of sacrifice. And 2010 was another year where I had a bad first game, and because I was playing way out of my comfort zone and where I would have played the pattern if it was a singles tournament or something and I was on it fresh. But you know, it paid off. I had 20 in a row in 2010 afterwards, and I mean, that's the nature of the game. If you want to win the tournament, you got to play as 10 guys. I wouldn't do what they did, and I don't think the lanes are bad for them, but I know I just don't see that's not how you win this tournament. We need Andy Morton's theory, guy that posts on the PBA message boards and occasionally writes a little a story or two I've seen on PBA.com. He said something a couple of years ago that at first I dismissed as absolutely wacky, but the more I've thought about it, it might almost be an answer for the people that complain that you got to have companion teams and that. He would have every team bowling on one lane. What do you think of that one?
I like that. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, it is wacky, but it makes sense. Brian Graham just ended his streak in the 8th frame with a soft 10 for Brian Graham. But going back to that, Riggs, I mean, is that idea all that harebrained when you really think about it? And I think no, because now I mean, so many guys can't find a companion team.
Yes, exactly.
And I think it makes tournament life better for them. And I think this tournament needs to cater to the majority and not the minority.
And I'm one, obviously I'm been fortunate to have a 10-man, 2 of the best 10-man groups in the history of bowling, to bowl with Rich Wonders' group, Kendor Fayball in the 80s, and then my group for the last 15 or so years. And I at first I thought Andy was absolutely insane, and then the more I thought about it, I thought he's addressing something that so many bowlers complain about to me or on Facebook or on the PBA boards or wherever, the old USBC message board, and that's you made this a 10-man tournament, and it shouldn't be a 10-man tournament, and I really can't argue with that logic. And if every team bowled on one lane for their whole team event, you know, and people say, well, lanes are bad, you know, you might get a bad lane. Well, if you're on a pair that has one bad lane, you're screwed anyway. So, you know, what's the difference if you know, I think it'd be a very interesting idea. And that's one I wouldn't think USBC would adopt, because it's so non-traditional and so crazy in a sense. But I think that would be an equitable thing, and it's an idea worth discussing if nothing else.
Certainly. And guys, Matt up on the right lane just left the dreaded 3-6-9-10. Made the spare, however, but that breaks up his string.
They've got to almost be mathematically eliminated here. Matt Canizaro's adding them up right now, I believe, and of course a lot depends on whether we get this spare made or not.
And by my unofficial calculations, 12-16, the best they could do at this point. So, John Gaines, you can go to bed now.
No. John Gaines, you can crack open a bottle of something cold if you want. Of course, it's a little late on the East Coast, isn't it?
That it is.
Don't remind me. I got to go back that direction tomorrow. I'll lose some hours. Just proving here, 35-38 is a large number. It's a large number on a house shot, much less a sport pattern, even if it's a softer sport pattern.
It's about as large, Riggs, as one of those giant inflatable gorillas you see at the used car lot saying monster savings or sales. That score is a monster.
I was going to say it's about as large as the dice roll I want to see tonight.
Now I lost a quick 100 with you last night. I don't know how I feel.
You would have done better if you'd have stuck around. It went through streaks, but it actually was pretty good for a while. And I escaped out of there with a Eldorado with a small loss and went over to the Legacy and spent a little more time. And went to bed really late last night, basically treading water for the night's gambling. But had a good time with a lot of guys I don't get to see too much, you being one of them. Heck, I'm never going to see you when you're down in Kansas.
I know. Well, maybe we'll have to get on a doubles tournament one of these times before you get too old and have to have one of those walkers with the tennis balls in front.
That hopefully won't be anytime soon. Maybe Mike Flanagan's listening out there. Maybe we'll have to, if you don't have a college tournament there, we'll have to do the holiday doubles down in the St. Louis area next year or something.
I like it.
You'd average about 275 in that tournament.
Well, guys, back down over here, the Locker guys putting together a pretty solid finish here in the 10th frame. Dave Langer finishes with 223, gets the first hit in the 10th. Then Dan and Dave Ullman both strike out in the 10th. And Dan Bock now with the first hit. So
they're going to shoot 3,200, aren't they? And it's going to be almost kind of disappointing, isn't that?
I would agree, Regs.
I mean, we shot 30. I think we had 3190 something last year, and if I recall, we were like 14th. Just to give you some perspective on how much tougher they were last year.
And guys, Brian Graham.
Oops, I see a 5.
Yeah, Brian Graham went right through the heart for a 3, 4, 6, 7, 10.
Ouch. Well, they made a heck of a run.
They did.
You know what? I can't, they're too far away for me to see their demeanor in that, but they have to, obviously some disappointment knowing what they could have done. But there's 6 more games tomorrow and a Team All Events Eagle that's, out there. So they need to just, if they're focused on what they let slip away here, they need to get away from that and think about these last frame and a half or 2 frames here and focus on what's still to come.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Riggs. I think, great start. You look at it like a great start. Yeah, we were knocking at the door, but it just didn't open up this time. And, you got to look ahead to tomorrow with a very talented group. It's definitely possible. And off to my right, guys, Jan Schmidt just had a nice 2-4.
All right.
So she backdoored the last 8 for 248. So she can still put it together. Looked like she was throwing it pretty good.
Well, she was a heck of a bowler back when she was competing on the ladies tour.
All right, so the Locker guy 2 down here, Matt, all wrapped up 31-36. Matt Meyer, not sure what happened here in game number 3, but after going 212, 230, he finished with 145.
Ouch.
And now Chad Nelson is going to close things out for the Locker guy 1. Langer, Ullman, and Bock all struck out in the 10th. Nelson left a 7-pin here on his first shot. So we'll have our final number here in just a minute.
Sam Macarone, a wrap 10 pin in the 9th, guys, down here on my end. So shaping up to be not all that great of a last game here, but they're still going to make a good push for a good team total. I can hear Sam Lanto in the background down there, guys.
I'll tell you, Matt Cannizzaro is going to be the happiest guy in the world when he gets to the day when they tear the bleachers out here in a few years and rebuild the seating area behind the first 40 lanes or so, because we're getting like run over here behind the live stream table. There's barely enough room for people to walk behind us with their bowling bags.
Well, perhaps we can get a platform on wheels and just put the gear up. Everybody can walk under it if they want, and it will just wheel it up and down the concourse here. But things are done down here on 35 and 36. So the locker guy 1 finishes with 32.07. Dave Langer, 639. Dan Langer, 596. Holman, 679. Dan Bock, 638. And Chad Nelson, 655. 32.07. So after a 9.87 start, 2 big games to finish, and solid effort here. The locker guy 2, Korth, 630. Bob Hager, 627. Clements, 665. Sylvester, 627. And Meyer, 587 for 31.36. So, again, a solid effort, good numbers. These guys are going to take home some prize money and certainly have some work to do tomorrow, however. But we'll see how they attack the other lane condition. This 41-foot pattern in the books, 39 feet tomorrow for doubles and singles. So we'll see them. If you want to check out how they did, you can find the leaderboards and individual results on bowl.com. Just go to the Open Championships page. All kinds of good news and notes on there. We had a 50-year guy today, a 50-year guy yesterday. Frank Clay right now bowling for the 59th time. So a little bit of everything happening here at the Open Championships. And we've got 1 frame to go. We'll stay with you guys as we watch Buddy's Pro Shop. .com down on lane 47 and 48, making a run here. They can't get the lead, but they're going to have a solid effort nonetheless.
And Chris Forey with the first hit in the 10th. That'll make a 3-bagger. And I believe if he sheets, it's 223 for him.
Chad Nelson just came up to me and shook my hand and said, sorry, that was hard to watch, but he had a smile on his face. And, 32.07, they had a tough start. That's not the end of the world, and you never know. Tomorrow, another day, you have a gigantic minors. Who knows? Just wilder things have happened.
That's very true. So here's Chris up in the 11th. Looks pretty good. 10 in the pit. So Chris in the 220s. Brian Graham can strike out for 242. Matt, he can get there. He can get to 222. Sam Macarone, 225. Mullins still's got a lot out there, 247. So these guys can definitely get up to a big team number.
Yeah, they'll be in play tomorrow. I mean, they're going to have a chance. I don't know when they're bowling, what squad, but
and a nice finish by Chris Forey, 223. Bringing up the big guy, Brian Graham. We'll see what happens here.
All right, Matt, we've now got their scoreboard live on Bowl TV.
all right.
So technology is helping us.
Brian Graham.
Nice bowling to the locker guys down here, but now it's Buddy'sProShop.com finishing up.
Brian Graham just 4-pinned. So it'll be 232 with conversion and full count. Sorry to cut you off there, Matty.
And among the spectators here, I do see Marshall Kent still in the house, watching these guys finish up. Still a pretty good crowd behind. I'm sure some of them might be on the next squad coming up. They're probably back in the squad room. It's 10-10 already. They bowl in 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And that's going to be a good squad. If you got your X Bowling app out, there's a lot of big names to scroll through on the next squad to check their minor scores.
All right, so Brian Graham looking to make it 232 with all 10. All right, Brian Graham, 232.
$23.55, 42.97, 25, 122, 47, 169. Looks like 1169 in the quick head math, which I'm sure is not 100% accurate, but I can't see the scores as well as I need to too. But they're in the high 1100s with a sheet out. I know that, which put them pretty close to 30, high 3400, close to 35. So definitely, you know what? I wouldn't take it if you gave it to me now, but if we shot that, I'd be satisfied with that.
Matt just got the first one in the 10th, so that's put him in the 2-1. Nice shot too. Really rolling it good tonight. And Matt makes it, gets in the 11th there, so that'll put him in the 220s.
They're having a good 10th frame so far.
Yes, they are.
All right, folks, so for those of you still with us, we're watching the final game from the other side of the bowling center here, lane 47 and 48. BuddiesProStop.com had a shot at the lead coming in here to Game 3 at the 2013 Open Championships. They're going to fall short of that, but still a fantastic set coming to a close here. So we're going to stay with you long enough to see that wrap up, and we'll get their final number, and then we'll call it a night here. Pack up the gear, get it ready to go in the car. We're headed to the Women's Championships tomorrow. We're going to see USBC Hall of Famer Carolyn Doran-Ballard and their team event over at the Women's Championships just a few miles away for the first time in history, both events in the same host city at the same time. So those ladies actually on the next squad here for doubles and singles and headed over to the WC tomorrow for 9 more games of competition. So a great opportunity to be able to bowl both events in one trip. They're certainly taking advantage of it. And we'll have a handful of broadcasts from the Women's Championships the rest of the way. So check out the live stream schedule on bowl.com for all that and much more here on Bowl TV.
You've earned your pay this week, Matt. Man. Late nights, lots of stories, lots of webcasting.
Well, that's certainly why we're here, to bring the news to the world. And a lot of great things happening here in 2013 so far. A lot of great scores, and certainly more to come. So we are here and ready. Aaron Smith is actually down there in the trenches. He's actually also interviewing a gentleman celebrating 59 years, getting ready for his big milestone next year. Woo. We had 2 50-year guys today, and Tisha Carter here as well. She is one of the handful of women who will reach 20 years this year at the Open Championships. Of course, the ladies first were allowed to bowl in 1994, and we have 11 on the schedule coming in for number 20 consecutive. And her goal is to be number 25, the very first one. And she is very, very pregnant here.
Yeah,
but did not want to miss the year.
3 weeks or something.
Yeah, but nothing can stop her from getting here this year to get the year in. And we're going to talk to her, get some thoughts on 20 years.
Oh, guys, Mike Mullen just week 7'd on that 3-bagger. That's going to hurt him.
You know what, though? If I'd have been that team after where they were after 2 games and what Mike had last game, and you'd have told me he was going to shoot 230, I'd have said, I'll take that. We got a chance to get it. He's not the reason they didn't get what they had. That's a heck of a good comeback. Interesting night. Well, I know you're going to kick things off here, Matt. I'll say goodbye and say thanks for the couple opportunities to be on here this week. It was a lot of fun. I saw a couple potential shots at Eagles in history here. It was a great fun time, and I hope we put on a show in 2 weeks.
Well, we appreciate you joining us, and I know there's lots of folks going to be watching that broadcast May 17th at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. on the East Coast. I know John Gaines will be staying up that night for sure.
I hope we make him stay up pretty late.
He's not going to wait for the updates. But while we're wrapping up things here, I was just thinking, last year or 2 years ago, when we had our focus kind of on Shannon O'Keefe and Brian O'Keefe and those guys, and the locker guy teams were on the other side of the bowling center making some noise quietly, making their way onto the leaderboards. And now it is a role reversal because we're here to watch the locker guys, and it's BuddiesProShop.com making some noise, and they're all done. Matt, can you give us the rundown there of game number 3? All right, it appears we have lost Matt McNeil, but looking at the scoreboard, looks like 223, 232, 222, 215, and 236 for 1128.
34-38, Matt says.
34-38. So they squeak into the top 10. That's going to put them in 7th place, just ahead of Lynn's Lakers by a stick. Or 2 sticks. So Lynn's Lakers 34-36, and BuddiesProShop.com 34-38. A very good, solid start towards Team All events, and we'll see them tomorrow. We'll keep our eye on them. If you're curious about how they did, check bowl.com. So much good news and information on there about everything bowling related, so check that out. And just want to thank Matt McNeil and Jeff Briggles for joining us tonight on the broadcast. Again, Aaron Smith and I headed over to the Women's Championships tomorrow evening, 6 p.m. our time, 9 p.m. on the East Coast. If you want to see some more great bowling action and some Hall of Fame, then you'll see them on Bowl TV tomorrow night. This is Matt Canizar. Appreciate everybody joining us. That is the news for now, and we'll see you on the lanes.